The Jews belong to this land. This land belongs to the Jews. The Palestinians are free to live here next to us, among us, but they're not free to demand the dissolution of the Jewish state. That is not justice. That is injustice. That's the shortest lecture I can give you about Jewish history.
So why do you think the claim that the Palestinians were somehow there in Israel first?
If you have the facts presented and you accept them, you're reasonable. If there's no facts but you accept it, you're gullible. If there's no facts and you don't accept it, you're skeptical. But if there's facts and you still don't accept it, you are completely delusional. And that's, I think, what we're going to clarify in this upcoming podcast. All the nonsensical shit that's being said and all the stuff that's actually the real deal. We're going to make it all come to light. So I can't wait.
I consider myself an objective, I think, narrator for this story. And I will provide a sort of semi-professional perspective because I am, in the end of the day, biased, you know. I can't escape my basic biases that are unconscious and I'm not aware of. But I try always to implement the scientific method into everything that I talk about and the content of my speech and the words that I choose.
Long story short, is basically it's a lot bigger than a 70-year occupation. It's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than that.
Abraham was not Jewish. He was, let's say, he was at least Israelite. He was a sun worshiper converted into monotheism. The first one allegedly in history to actually take on the belief in one God. And he wasn't a Jew. So it's very complicated because Jew stems from the tribe of Judah. And the tribes did not exist up until to that point. You know, it was only later when Israel divided into 12 tribes. Yeah. He comes from the great land of Uruk. Uruk is somewhere in Mesopotamia, which is modern region of Iraq. His father was a sun worshiper and also an idolater. He worshipped idols.
He was a pagan. He just worshipped.
Yeah, he was a pagan. From the time that Abraham had a vision of the one God, you know, and he was instructed to leave his homeland and establish a new, you know, lineage in the land of Canaan. It wasn't called Israel back then. It was called Canaan until the point in which the Hebrews were released according to the biblical story. The Hebrew slaves, the exile of the Hebrew slaves from Egypt and the reception of the Torah. The Torah is a way of saying the 10 Commandments that they received on Mount Sinai by the prophet Moses. Up until that point, they were not called Jews; they were called Hebrews. From that point on,
very good distinction.
Yeah. From that point on, the tribes of Israel were established. the tribes came from different houses from the predecessor, the precursor. He was named Reuben, and we had the three fathers, shall we say, the three forefathers. We have Abraham, Isaac, and
Not Jacob. No.
and Jacob. Jacob, yes,
Oh, okay.
sorry,
It was Jacob. Yeah.
and Jacob. So from the seed of Jacob uh, came all the tribes, the different tribes, and after that, there was a big civil war when 10 tribes united to one big tribe called the tribe of Israel against the tribe of Judah, which consisted of two tribes that unified together. They had political, financial differences that could not be bridged, through diplomacy. So there was essentially a civil war, and at some point,
Really quick to interject, wasn't it when the kingdom was established? Was it after Moses brought them back from the exile in the desert for 40 years? Was it called the kingdom of Judah or the kingdom of Israel? I thought it was called the kingdom of Judah.
at some point, it divided into the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. Yeah,
I thought it was originally the kingdom of Judah, and then it became Israel and Judah. I thought it was always just the kingdom of Judah, and then the division happened after the fall of Solomon.
No, they were almost always consistently 12 distinct tribes. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course,
Even
there were
under
times.
David and Solomon's rule.
Yeah. But at that time, they were already divided, to the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The north and the south, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Conquered the land of Israel. He destroyed Solomon's temple. He exiled all the Jews to Babylon. At some point, they came back under the rule of Sargon of Akkad, if I'm not mistaken. But it's claimed or allegedly all of the tribes sort of disappeared or never came back to the land of Israel, and only two tribes existed and survived, and those were two tribes that were called the tribe of Judah, the unified tribe of Judah. So that's the root of Judaism. Yeah.
So, and you say that would, I'm assuming, after this would have to be obviously after the Babylonian occupation. There was then Cyrus the Great, where the Cyrus cylinder is built.
Yeah.
Cyrus liberates the Jews and then attempts to resettle them and rebuild their temple. Yeah, and that's where the Cyrus cylinder.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I was mistaken. Right. Yeah, it was Cyrus.
No, for fair enough. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, they're all kind of, conflicting with each other in a way. Like, Akkad has a part to play. Xerxes has a part to play too. There's so many different rulers, and then obviously Alexander comes after Cyrus and whatnot. Xerxes. Alexander comes after Xerxes, but yeah. And then obviously there's the other. Was it the Maccabean revolt?
Yeah. It's around. It's after. It's some 400 years after the time of Alexander the Great. Yeah.
Oh right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's 100 BC to 200 BC or thereabouts. Yeah. Simon Schama, a Jewish British historian, wrote in his book that there was a small community, which was rather large for a Jewish community in Hierapolis, I think. in Egypt that flourished in the year between the years 600 BC to 500, 400 BC or thereabouts. And perhaps that's the basis for the biblical story, but you don't have any proof, physical or manuscript or otherwise, that says differently. You just have to rely on the biblical exegesis in the Genesis story. Yeah.
So, okay, all right. Well, then to backtrack after the Persians, and so the Babylons under Nebuchadnezzar, then liberated under Cyrus the Great of Persia, and then once again invaded by the Greeks under Alexander. And then finally, after the Maccabean revolt, I believe it was under Ptolemy or Seleucus. Then we have
Exactly.
obviously the Caesar, Pompey, and Mark Antony. The Romans decide through Egypt to invade Judah, and then you have that basically takes us to
then you have Hadrian and Titus.
Yep, but also just before then, this is when the Nazarene carpenter comes around, and
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I understand. Like, everyone's got their own opinion of him, but like, he comes around, and he kind of does his thing, and then allegedly, spreads his word, and then that all happens, and now we're up to Hadrian, and then. With that Hadrian, yes, the third temple is just. I think it could have been Titus or Hadrian.
The second temple. The third temple has not been not yet built. Yeah. Judaism had struggled with the idea of false prophets throughout its history. It's a very delicate issue.
One of the Jewish diaspora, and this is when all of the Hebrews
diaspora,
Jewish diaspora, and they all flee, and they all go to all the corners of the world. So they say they all flee to all corners of the earth, and then pretty much.
Well, technically, it's not possible, but okay.
No, I mean, not literally possible, but they say that they flee to all corners of the earth.
But gradually, it happened. Judaism and the Jewish population spread across, all the four corners of the globe, of course.
Yeah. So and then obviously, with that all being said, then. In regards to the region, the so-called Eastern Romans, the Byzantines, Eastern Romanos ruled for some few hundred years until they'll find the Sassanid Persians, and then obviously came the arrival of the Prophet Muhammad, and then leads to the first caliphate, which under Khalid ibn Abu Walid defeated, I think, Khosrow, and then eventually
Khalid ibn Abu Walid.
Yep, and then also had an envoy sent to see Heraclius. I believe it was Heraclius, and then Heraclius had a chat with the envoy, and then after that, obviously the Holy Land was taken by the Arabs under Islam, and then after that, it's been just Rome. Yeah, it's been after Rome's collapse, it's just been a feud between who has more power over that territory, mainly.
You have Salahuddin with the Mamluks.
Salahuddin,
the Mamluks, the empire, and then you have the sort of Christian.
Under Baldwin the Leper and King Richard the Lionheart, the Crusader kingdoms. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Baldwin the Fourth, the
Leper. Yep.
King of Jerusalem. After that, you have
between the Islamic kingdoms start to fight just a bit.
Exactly. It was a kind of a stalemate that lasted for 100 years or so. Then you have the Turkish.
The
Empire.
The Ottoman
coming
Empire.
to power. Ottoman, of course.
The Ottomans have basically been in rule of that region for essentially 500 years more
Yeah,
or less until the World War One. I
until
think it was the Treaty
until
of
the
Sevres,
British,
and then
the
they
British
obviously
with
this is yeah. Now
with
we've done it.
General Allenby,
Yep.
yeah, and what's his name? Well, I'll get his name later. It will come up. You know, if you saw Lawrence of Arabia, it essentially details parts of that story. With the French Foreign Legion and also the British Empire forces in the land of Israel. So it's very complex,
It is.
very,
Yeah, it is.
very, very, very drawn out history with lots of details and figures and events. It's very hard to parse through all that information that accumulated um, events that happened throughout history in regards to that region. But we'll give our best attempt at it. Let me put it that way. The Bible strictly forbids Jews to take the land of Israel by force. That passage in the Bible we know. But that mindset and that kind of decree shifted, because the Jewish people population they were very divided and conflicted amongst themselves with regards to theology, to conception of God, the conception of the Jewish people, of the Jewish religion, and they were very divided. And at some point, well, Zionism always existed in some capacity. There were
Would you say just
great,
the idea of Zionism always like the promise of
yeah, always existed. At least in the early parts of the 19th century.
there was the
Um,
elders of Zion, yeah.
well, that's that's a conspiracy theory, but we'll talk about that also.
Well, that yeah, it's been popping as you can imagine. It's
The
been
the
popping up a lot all over the web. But yeah,
the protocols
yeah, protocols of Zion, yeah,
of the Zionism. It's a bad hoax that was promulgated in the early parts of the 1920s, I will say, or 1910s. Um, but it stems from the Freemasons and that concept of world government and world
oh yeah,
one world. Yeah, it stems from that notion that the governments were banning the lodges of Freemasonry and all religious or esoteric cults and brotherhoods,
well, yeah. There
and
was
they
a
cracked down on in the process on Zionism as well. So it was seemed like a fraternity, a closed sect of intellectuals and high status sort of individuals that were dictating the narrative for an entire population.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing where the so-called Jewish mindset goes through this change in the early 20th century, where even many leaders are saying that there's a bit of a big issue between the so-called Jews that have a
Do,
nomadic
do you
lifestyle
do you
and the
mind if I
so-called Jews
smoke?
that
Do you mind if I smoke?
it's in your own place. You're not smoking with us. That's
Okay.
but yeah, no, but there's definitely there's a change in the Jewish mindset. Obviously, there's always, I guess, even back 2,000 years ago with the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, there's been a change in the Jewish mindset. But like, there's definitely a change in the Jewish mindset now in regards to you have the very strict ultra-Orthodox Hasidic rabbis, and you also have now these
Yeah,
other
yeah,
Jew Zionists and whatnot, and it's just been like them trying to, they've been butting heads, like what really happens with the Hebrews, what happens with the Jews, what happens with the Israelis, what happens to them, what's the ultimate goal, you know? So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Essentially, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, go.
Yeah. So the Pharisees were the reason, or the original cause for anti-Semitism. They accused, or at least Augustine, outright, in a blank canvas, painted all the Jews as being responsible for deicide. Deicide means the killing or murder of God, no less. In the figure of Jesus. Yeah. Anti-Semitism also applies to Arabs because
Because there's Semitic
they are
language,
also,
exactly, yeah.
exactly, yeah, they are Semitic people in origin. Um, Anti-Semitism started actually in ancient Greece, funnily enough, when a scholar, philosopher called Apuleius, Eponymous, I think. Well, I'll check his name afterwards. Um, wrote a tractate about against the Jews, calling them lazy because they will not work on the Sabbath day. Uh, so a great philosopher called Josephus Flavius wrote a tractate kind of countering what that Greek philosopher wrote in his tractate against the Jews, and that's where anti-Semitism actually came to surface. Was written down in how do you say it? Well, I can't remember how to.
It,
Well,
let's just say it became like
was
a world
actually
thing. Its origins, it became like a world thing. Let's like it became a trend. Like I know it's a bit of a lame term, but it became like a trend because then the
okay.
Romans, the Arabs, and the Persians, they all
Yeah,
pick up on it.
it was much more. It was much more than a trend, but yeah. Sometimes people who are actually anti-Semites, they confuse between the Jewish people as a group and Israeli people who don't necessarily share the same ideals, the same backgrounds, the same education. They vary in their religious adherences. Um, so it's problematic because anti-Semites today, I think, see Jewish people as just a colonizer. They conflate Jewish people with kind of European colonizers at the start of the 19th century, for example. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so I think it's hard to distinguish between racism per se and anti-Semitism, but in other ways you can say that anti-Semitism specifically refers to a down sort of derogatory or abusive behavior towards a group of people that are from the Semite, and that
yeah,
originate in the Semite race. They're just fabricating stories, propaganda in order to keep the people ignorant of the actual truth. They want to conceive of a narrative that suits their own, and they do not care about the truth. They do not care about the scientific method. They do not care about journalistic integrity. They don't give two shits about that. They just want
Oh,
to
it's all an
push.
agenda. Yeah.
Of course, they just want to push their agendas and their worldview and perspective on people who are otherwise ignorant about the subject.
But individuals on both sides, regardless of whether they be so-called Israeli government officials, or you even have the so-called leaders of Palestine, which call themselves Hamas. What's his name, Muhammad Abbas or something? The leaders of Hamas.
Yeah,
Both of
exactly.
them, are saying we got to completely kill the other side. Like they're
He
talking,
he's
they're
not
talking about each
he's
other
not
like they're
the
animals. It's crazy.
yeah he's not the head of Hamas. He's the head of the Palestinian government, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
But
the head of
Hamas
Hamas
is, yeah.
is a Yahya Sinwar. And no, the Palestinian authorities were they have a self governing police and army. They're not they trained Israel trained some of the officers and some of the troops that work in Judah and Shomron, but they are under Palestinian jurisdiction. And the Palestinian jurisdiction, the government has an army, so they work with that governmental and military force. In an otherworldly universe, we can say that I don't know, maybe the American government is working against its own people to actually benefit the Israeli cause and ideal, but that's highly, that's a far-reaching notion to actually come upon. They abuse, the facilities that are meant to house and hospitalize and care for the wounded, and for the Palestinian population, they abuse those facilities, and they situate armed forces and rocket bases essentially in those facilities, and that's a very unfortunate reality that the Israeli military force has to deal with on a constant daily basis, and it's very saddening, I think, to see children and mothers and the wounded and the elderly have to flee for their lives, or to see them just
It was, I
die.
guess, the situation in regards to the current conflict itself is that you've obviously you're left with this notion that either way, obviously, in any armed conflict, some side's gonna have to, die. Obviously, it can't be a
Yeah,
conflict
yeah,
if both sides shake hands. It's like eventually in any conflict, one side's gonna have to die. And what's obviously unfolded in
yeah.
regards to the war is being.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, but I don't think we want to end up with that resolution. I don't think we want to control or colonize and to establish an Israeli independent government governing Palestine. I don't think we would like to do something like that, because it's not advisable, I think, in the long term to do something like that. It will be very
Crossly.
dangerous. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister at that time, he knew early on of the bombings and the death trains and the gas chambers. He knew about them, and he did not bomb the death trains. He did not attack on German soil, and yeah, he kind of regretted not doing something early on and trying to stop the genocide and the massacre, the systematic eradication of an entire ethnicity and group of people.
There was
So
a
yeah,
yeah.
there's also that. Yeah. Sorry.
There was a lot of pressure in the British government to actually get Churchill out of office. Obviously, he at the end of it, he had that speech that he had where he was like in the
Yeah, yeah.
thick of World War II. He was then forced
By
to
land
act
and
and
by sea.
forced to start doing stuff. But early on, yeah, he did not want a bar of it, and there was a lot of pressure for a lot of other British politicians and MPs to kick him out of office, replace him with someone else because they were just, they did not like how he was trying to, advance some level of German aggression. But he wasn't. He was he was hard on Germany when it came to it. But at first he was like very, oh, I don't want to upset them too much because all the other MPs will then attack me because they don't want to fight Germany. They don't want to drag Britain into a war with the Germans because the nature of the reality is that the German infantrymen literally is hyper efficient. They are very good soldiers in World War II, and at
Yes,
the
they were
obviously
an efficient death machine.
they were very very good. Like they were real. The Reich was pretty much unstoppable in the first few years of the war until later on.
Yes, yes.
Then obviously it became more of a supply issue. But yeah, they were. It was understandable to maybe don't fight the Germans because if you do, they just rolled over Poland and France.
Yeah,
It's like you don't want
and
to get on them just yet.
Hitler made the same mistake that Napoleon had done, and Julius Caesar trying to capture Russia, trying to vanquish them. It was never a smart choice, to
Yeah,
go
it's
through that route
trying. Yeah,
because the supply lines and the supply depots were so distant and remote from one another. You couldn't resupply your troops fast enough to actually keep on the
exactly.
war efforts. Yeah.
And it's the thing with the Russian terrain, which is it's really again like you said with Napoleon, even a Polish Lithuanian leader earlier called Shadzwika. It was a similar thing. As soon as someone goes to invade Russia, there's just way too much frozen tundra and lots of barren land. It's a
The
lot of
only
attrition sets
people,
in. Attrition.
yeah, exactly. The only people who managed to, group of people who
Or the
managed
Mongolians,
to
they say the
conquer
Mongolians.
the
Yeah.
Mongolians on the one hand, and firstly, before that, the Vikings.
Yes, Oleg
The
and Ulrich.
Russians,
That's right. Yeah,
the Russians are descendants of essentially Vikings in a lot of respects.
they have a mixed so-called a mixed culture with the so-called Rus from Sweden, and obviously the Wends or the Vends, the Slavic tribes in Eastern Europe, who were obviously also dealing with the neighboring Bulgars and the Khazars in northern
Yeah, yeah,
parts of
the
Ukraine and the
Khazars.
northern Caucasus. Yes,
It is stipulated in one of the great Jewish scholars and philosophers that wrote that what's his name, the Khazarian king, Bolgan, I think you said,
yeah,
yeah.
Bulgan. Yeah, it was
Uh,
Bulgan.
yeah, yeah,
Bulgan.
yeah. Actually converted or was convinced, or yeah, he was convinced, or actually, I forgot the term for it, but he was convinced to convert into Judaism at some point, which I don't know the historicity of that particular story, but it exists. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely many records out there about it. Obviously, there's it. A lot of them have been lost to time. Of course, the Khazar state through the Pontic steppe and that of Ukraine and the northern Caucasus was attacked by the neighboring Tatars in Kazan, the Bulgars, and of course the Kiev on
Yeah,
Alexander Svyatoslav invaded and destroyed
the
the
Jews
Khazar
and the
state.
Jews in the medieval ages, the Jews were in France and Britain. The Jews were accused of actually conspiring with the Tatars, supplying them with weapons against British, troops or armies or vassals. Yeah. So that there was that,
I
and
was
and
told
they
that the
were
Venetians even had a part to play as well. Apparently, the Venetians were talking with the Khazars and the Tatars as well, and they were giving them lots
yeah
of
they were
goods to invade other parts of Europe. It was
the
made possible.
king the king of Britain expelled all the Jews in 1250
Yep.
from Britain. Yeah,
That's right. Yep.
entirely.
It.
And like the Nazis, just a minute to harken back to World War II. The Nazis were not the first to actually mark the Jews as a distinct people from the other population.
Mm.
The Britain had done it in the medieval ages. They were forced to wear on their clothes a sort of a marking, identifying mark, and they also had to wear a specific type of headwear, a hat or a cap that would distinguish them from the rest of the population. Yeah. Before the French Revolution of 1788 and the American Declaration of Independence of 1776, nothing like that could even be conceived, let alone be executed.
I think the one thing that
Because,
maybe I could just say, add one more tiny thing. There was the
yeah,
Protestants' Reformation of the 30 Years' War, I guess, when Germany
yeah,
effectively became self-determined. But
yeah,
apart
and
from that,
also the British kind of civil war
the English Civil
and
War too. That's it.
establishing the parliament, deposing the king.
Yep.
A regicide. Regicide is another term in Latin called the murder or execution of a king,
Yep.
which was, revolutionary to say the least for
Yep.
that period in history.
Exactly.
So before the revolution of 1789 in France and the emancipation, Napoleon was essentially the great liberator of Jews, because Jews were living in the kind of the provinces or regions that were strictly
They were ghettos. They're
for
basically ghettos. Yeah.
they were some were small ghettos and some were large, vast areas where Jews could live um, I forgot the term for it.
Well,
Just live. Just a second. To live and thrive. The Jews were not that. Shall we say, miserable in their time in those areas or ghettos throughout history, because Jews were given a special position, or the Jewish leadership or rabbinical authority were given a special privilege to be the sole tax collectors for the regions, for the kings and the vassals and the princes and the dukes, whatever. So they were not they were not so underprivileged because they were protected under the aegis of the king.
well, yeah.
Uh,
What is yeah? To elaborate on that, what essentially had happened? What to To elaborate though, what essentially has happened is that having that the Jews have or the Hebrews had an ancient culture of obviously regards to administration, in regards to commerce and whatnot. It had been discovered by many European monarchs that they have a culture that breeds intellectualism. They have a culture that revises material, understands commerce, administration. And so when this was realized by European monarchs and also Middle Eastern monarchs too, don't get me wrong, Middle Eastern monarchs also did this as well, the Fatimids and the Mamluks as well. They realized that it's actually somewhat ideal to have some Jews in these positions of administration because they can definitely handle and be very efficient with administrating tax and commerce. And so actually quite vital and beneficial to put them in these positions. And it was.
Yes, Jews
Obviously,
were
over time, they got the tax for it.
of the richest. Yeah, sorry.
No, yeah.
Jews were some of the richest people in Europe in some points because they were great merchants. They were great businessmen. They were great. They were great in diplomacy and how do you say it? I forgot the term for
Traders,
it.
they're just
But
merchants, great merchants, traders, administrators,
yeah,
diplomats.
yeah, they were this. They held some official positions.
They were
They had,
intellectuals, somewhat intellectuals, I guess.
of course, the main occupation was of the Jewish elite was a kind of a rabbinical in nature, religious, theological, philosophical, mystical writings, and a kind of philosophy and worldview that they try to promulgate and to instill in their congregations. But they also had to make a living, and they were great merchants and traders.
Not
Traders,
traitors,
not
traders.
traders.
Yeah, trade. They were good in trade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A military industrial complex. They
Yeah.
are essentially what America is a warmongering kind of empire, and that's the truth.
I mean, looking at the
You
historical records, out of the so-called 250 years of their existence, 220 of those years they've been in continuous state of warfare. They've been at
yeah,
warfare for 90 years of their 90% of their existence has been involved in some
yeah,
kind of war. So yeah,
a kind of a cold war, and also an active
yeah.
battle and skirmishes or whatever, or operations, different operations that are just unfathomable, that a foreign sovereign state will intervene in the affairs of another independent sovereign state. It doesn't exist in
Yeah.
the modern kind of a climate.
It's in
And
terms of foreign affairs, America, according to a senator in the 50s called of Cabot Hodge.
they are essentially a proxy army. They are a puppet, a marionette for for the American government.
The way it operates is that you've got a situation, obviously, when the leader of Israel, current leader Benjamin Netanyahu, obviously has. Yes, yeah.
well, well,
I'm pretty sure he's
his
part
his
Polish.
English
Yeah.
his English is top notch. The upper echelon of world leaders. Yeah, at some point he studied. He kind of apprenticed in Harvard, had done his treatise and doctorate at Harvard, and he appeared in American television. And a kind of today is more obscure, and people will not know this show, but it's called William F. Buckley show. He was a pseudo intellectual and American TV host that hosted a very popular intellectual kind of a show where he would bring on different intellectuals and academics and artists and political figures. And he appeared on that TV show in like 1986 or 88, something like that. Yeah. So he became very famous from that appearance. The Jewish people don't have any other piece of territory or national or nation that is actually, suitable, inhabitable for Jews because of the long-standing notions of
Anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, and it's true. Anti-Semitism is still promulgated and is still a kind of a black mark on
Everywhere they went,
history.
they were, yeah. There's a lot of obviously there's a big history in regards to what you said.
Yeah,
Everywhere they went, they've been expelled from this. Yeah.
There's one kind of a tale or myth that actually demonstrates this notion in a very apt way. The notion of the wandering Jew, a tale that was promulgated and it goes back to at least the 12th or 11th century that talks about a Jew. It's based on a story from the Bible where Jesus, when he was about to be crucified, actually asked a man or something to give him maybe a towel, I think, to wipe off his sweat, and the man refused, and he scorned him, and he said, "You're," and he essentially laughed at his going to die, to be crucified on the Via della Rosa, which translates literally to the way of suffering in Latin. So he cursed him to wander the earth without his shoes, because he was a cobbler, I think, that made shoes, and he's destined to wander the earth until the second coming. So that's a kind of apt, analogy for the notion of
The wandering Jew.
Yeah. That's a myth. That's a myth, and the story that appears in the New Testament. We want to implement the scientific method and to be rational and objective, and not to go by, every little trend or fad that is being fed and beaten into us by social media and popular, journalistic outlets and governments. We want to be governing ourselves with self-reliance, independent thinking, and rationalism.
Like if one side wins, because at the moment either Israel wins or the Palestinians have to win.
Okay.
Let's just say
Just say
hypothetically.
this is not going to build up to a third world war yet. Just
Okay.
say.
Yep.
And Hamas hopefully will be destroyed. That's,
Okay. Israel wins. Okay.
Israel wins.
What happens to the Palestinians now? Where do they go?
They've got to behave themselves.
But will they have to go if their homes aren't there anymore? Where should they go?
What mean their homes are not there anymore?
Well, if they've lost and Israel tells them to leave, well, where do they go? To the neighbouring Arab countries?
No, they're not taking Gaza away from the people that live there. They're only taking the fighting machine.
Oh, Hamas. So it's just
Yes.
okay then. All right. Well, okay. Let's hope that's the case. Now, what if
But-
Hamas wins?
but-
Where should Israel go?
Well, Hamas can't win.
But if they do, hypothetically.
No, they can't.
But what if
Okay,
the
I mean,
Saudis joined in
because
and no one helps
if
Israel?
Hamas wins, right,
Yep.
and they destroy Israel,
Yep.
then God isn't real.
Well, this is a hypothetical, but yeah, I see
No,
that.
no.
Hello everyone, I'm Antonio here from the Middle Way, and today we're going to be talking about this issue here, Israel or Palestine. Let's see what the people have to say about it on the street.
Aiden Tom, man.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. So tell me, what do you know about the conflict between Israel and Palestine?
Well, I know it's very topical at the moment.
Yeah.
That the Palestinians, not the Palestinians, but Hamas, did start an attack.
October 7th, I believe, yes.
Yes, but the Israelis did respond. Bro, get rid of that.
What am I doing?
And ever since then, although there has been a ceasefire,
Yeah, well, they're trying to bring
periodically,
one,
Israel has been attacking the Gaza Strip.
Yep, they've been bombing it for quite some time, yes. Yeah, there's been a deep-seated issue there.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, the next question I've got for you. So
Okay.
tell me, who do you think is ultimately responsible for the conflict?
Well, I think it's not as simple as that. It's more nuanced.
I see.
That
Yeah.
maybe the Palestinians had done the initial attack this last year, but you could even bring it back to when the state of Israel was created, and how there is anger from then.
Yep, some people even saying that this goes back thousands of years.
I think this conflict will come to an end.
Yeah.
I will say maybe in 2 years' time. I think maybe with the change of government in America, and maybe Trump will come in and sort something out.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah?
Some people say this has been going for 100 years. Some people say that the way the Israeli leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, he reckons it's going to end by this year.
Okay. I'm not sure.
No,
I don't
fair enough.
really consider that. I just look at the present.
Yeah, that's a good way to see things, eh?
Yeah.
So what other parts of the world do you think are going to get affected by this conflict?
Or other parts of the world. Well, I think everyone's been affected
Yeah.
because, well, like nearly over 30% of the world is Islamic, and
Yep.
Palestine is an important region in the Islamic world.
Yep.
So I would say a large portion of the world has been impacted.
That's fair enough, yeah. I can see that. You'd say the Middle East mainly at the moment.
Or even Indonesia, Malaysia.
So the entire
Pakistan.
Islamic world in a sense
Yeah.
is being impacted.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it.
Yep.
So tell me, when or how do you think this conflict might come to an end?
Or like a ceasefire? I don't know.
Yeah, like a permanent stopping of all the fights between them. Do you think it's even possible?
I don't know if it's possible for a permanent ceasefire, but maybe a periodic ceasefire.
So they're going to be fighting till the end of time, pretty much. They'll
No,
ceasefire,
I
then
don't believe so. I think maybe Israel will take over enough territory to stop fighting. I don't know.
You then don't think that maybe someone else might jump in Iran,
I
maybe
doubt it.
Turkey.
I doubt it.
Don't think China's going to help them out. Maybe North Korea.
I doubt it.
Don't think Russia's going to just march in the Middle East for a bit. You
I
think
doubt
Europe's
it.
just going to let them do that?
I believe so.
I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
We'll wait and see.
Absolute pleasure, man. Absolute
Last
pleasure.
question, right?
Yeah.
If not Israel, then where?
What do you mean?
Where would they
As in,
go?
like, where would the Jewish people go if they did not establish Israel?
Well, there's already large populations in America, Australia, Europe, but
That was the whole point of like.
the Jewish
Israel was
population
the
is in Israel,
migrated, right?
so there is
Yes.
an Israeli state, so you just have to accept that.
See, that's where the conflict is too.
Yeah.
Because it's Palestinian land, but yet the Israeli people needed somewhere to go, right?
Yeah,
From
I
World
know.
War II.
I know.
So they established this place.
Yeah,
to
but like
stay.
Israel's been around for fucking like 70 years.
years, yeah, something
Like
like that.
you just have to accept maybe we can have a two-state solution. I don't know.
It's good
Two
point.
states. See what happens.
Shafiq?
Shafiq, Tom, pleasure to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so tell me, What do you think about the current conflict between Israel and Palestine?
Well, this eternal problem since a long time between ideological ideas or directions.
Yep.
You see? So I think it's not gonna end. Maybe nuclear war will end this one. I think.
Well, that's a terrible way to think
Otherwise,
of it,
it won't end.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Just
It
because
seems that way.
it's the Holy Land. That's it. The thing that is happening now in Palestine
It's
or
terrible. It's
Israel
sad.
for some people
It's sad.
is a massacre. That's the least thing we can say about it. Massacre.
It's terrible.
Massacre. Even if Palestinian attacked Israeli in their villages or something, the answer was like multiplied by thousands of times.
Oh yeah, it was quite the retaliation.
And
yeah.
no one, like, international authorities did something about it. Like, I was shocked how they
Yeah.
reacted for Ukraine and how
Russia,
they
yeah.
reacted for Palestine. This is a contradiction or double standards behavior
I see that.
from the West.
It's a good point. No, it's a
You
fair
see?
point. It's a fair point. There is a
it's-
reaction.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair. At least let's put aside religion and politics. It's not fair for women, children, even men, old
Yeah.
people. It's not fair
It's
to
sad.
to prison 2 million people and just bombard them because of something someone else did maybe.
Yeah, it's always
Someone
the people.
else you call
It's always
terrorist.
the people that pay
I
the
don't know.
price,
I don't
yeah.
know. But it's generalizing a problem of few thousand people on 2 million people. That's it.
Yeah, no.
That's it.
So,
So
yeah.
hopefully someone could do something about it, but I don't think so. Since it is supported from USA, the governor of the world,
World
and
police,
Great
the
Britain.
World police.
Yeah, the world police.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will get better. That's it. That's my opinion about
I'll
it.
tell you this though. With that being said, so yeah, with you already said, who do you think is really responsible for these?
Religion.
Religion?
Yeah.
Yeah, you say this
Because
is
it
three
started,
Abrahamic
it
faiths?
started, it started from like 2,000 or 1,500 years. Why? Because of religious conflict about this land,
Yeah.
the Holy Land.
The Holy Land, yeah.
This is the main problem or the source problem. This
One
is
of,
the
yes.
reason. Yeah, religion it is, or ideological, yeah, like directions or thinking. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do you
And
think
we want.
that- yeah, I was going to say,
Go,
with
go,
that
go.
being said, so it's religious mainly. It's mainly a religious issue because of the three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. It's the main reason because those three religions have that place as a sacred spot. Obviously, Abraham's covenant from, the Mesopotamia to Jerusalem, Judah. Then obviously, Jesus, Isus, that's the place where he dwelled for most of his life. And obviously, Muhammad as well, having, claimed that land in the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's obviously three main religions significance right there. But would you say that surely there's also half of it's political as well, as much as it is religious?
Well, it became political, but still the source, the main thing is religion.
Yeah.
The fuel of this problem is religion. That's it. Israelis or Jews believe that the temple is under that
Al-Aqsa
mosque,
Mosque,
and
yeah.
they need to search for
mosque,
it and
yeah.
search for the rocks their ancestors threw underground.
Yeah.
You see, and they actually doing this. They're taking houses and lands
They claim the
in
land.
Jerusalem and
Yeah.
just digging into the ground to search for their things. And Muslims too are believing that this is their mainland and their right, because Jews only came at 20s of last century
That's what I was going to
because
say.
of Balfour Promise.
Yeah, the
You
Balfour
see?
Declaration, World War One. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they say that it is a modern problem. They came to our land. We are the real owners because we are here since maybe 2,000 years, 1,500 years. Muslim
If you
there.
want to put it very technically speaking, even after the destruction of the Third Temple in 70 AD and Emperor Hadrian expelling the Jews after the revolt, there was still a very small group of Hebrews or Jews living there.
Yes.
Even since 3,000 years, there's a very small group there.
Yeah, but
But they're not the same as the migrants that have come after 1950 from Europe.
I have no problem about the Jews staying there. I'm just saying it is religion. If you take off the religion from that place, or it is like there is a button that will delete it from everyone's brain.
You see, number one motivating factor,
No
religion.
one will commit a crime.
Do you think that maybe there also is extreme significance between the United States of American Congress and their ties with the Israeli government as well?
Well, we can't deny that USA is
Is
kind
Israel's
of
biggest
controlled.
supporter?
No, it's kind of controlled by the economic lobby in USA, which is, let's say, it's the majority of this lobby owners are Jewish. Let's say it. You see? So
it is fair to assume
the
that we're
whole
not meant to talk
the
about
whole
it,
political scene,
Yeah.
the whole political scene, let's say in USA, is just puppies from the president to the member of the parliament, to the members of the senate, to the governors of the states. They're just actors who get paid in their campaign from people that support both parties. So it is like an act.
Yes.
You see? That's it. That's my
puppets on
opinion.
a stage. They're just on a stage. They're just puppets on
Yeah,
a stage.
they're just
It's
acting,
yeah.
and they're just serving just, let's say, Israel.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, there is a thing about this. There is a rumor that Kennedy was killed by the Mossad because he has the intention to block Israel from owning nuclear weapons. This is a rumor. I don't know.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah,
Keep going.
it can be.
That's something else.
This is a rumor. I can't ensure this info, but there is two reasons. The one is this, and the other one is that he won't take back the old monetary system and make their Federal Reserve public and owned by the government back. And you see, these are the two main reasons he might die for. Yeah.
That and CIA.
Yeah, so the Mossad just did this thing because I think they're basically controlling the US, you see? And they killed it. You are a good actor. You don't listen to the director. Okay, put aside and put another dummy. That's it. That's how it works in USA. Feel lucky here in Australia to have this, even though Australia too is following USA, but we can call it democracy. We got out of the subject, sorry.
No, you're on a roll. You're on a roll, man. Keep going. I mean, I'll agree with a fair amount of things
You're
said.
good here in
it's-
Australia. You're lucky to have elected government and president, and I don't know
But
why.
even then, think of it like
idea
this.
of election.
We had a governor about 7 decades ago, so 1960, 1970. We had one before Golf Whitlam. I forgot his name. But,
Governor of Victoria, you say?
it was not the one in Victoria. It was the one of Australia, the Australian Prime Minister.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't Whitlam, it was the other guy. And either way, due to a situation where this particular Prime Minister decided to go against what America had said with the military base, the American CIA got the Governor General of the UK to fire and sack, as in to pretty much force the current leader of Australia in the 1960s to resign. Yes. So that's a fact. I think it was Golf Whitlam. It was I think it was Menzies. It was Menzies. I think it was Robert Menzies. Robert Menzies was fired not by the Australian people, but by the Governor General from Great Britain. He came here under American intervention to sack an Australian political figure. So to think about, it was a bit hard for
So you
Menzies.
think, but this is old. You think it's the same case for here in Australia? It is kind of controlled by other powers?
It was, even though it was 4 or 5 decades ago, it still shows that America has influence over not just the
for
British
sure.
government, they have influence in the
No,
Australian government too.
Brits have no control anymore compared to USA here.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it's true.
Because Australia, I don't know, but what I see and analyze from news, Australia is just blind following USA.
Yep, yeah. Like
Even
a puppy dog, yeah.
Not puppy dog. I don't like this expression. I don't, because I can consider it as a power. But it is like following it blindly because they work together at the Second World War. They work together politically, economically.
Yep.
They deal with each other. You see? Maybe that's the reason. But we can deny that USA has a hand in every single countries in the world. You see, except maybe for North Korea, that's it. But the rest, it has a hand in every sport of the world. I don't know.
Point. So, if you think that this all goes ahead, what other parts of the world do you think that this is going to affect?
It's gonna what? Sorry?
If this war continues, what other regions and countries in the world are going to be affected by this conflict?
Everyone. Actually,
yeah?
actually, if it will continue like that in Ukraine, and China take back Taiwan, maybe we'll witness for the first time nuclear war.
Yep.
And they might do it.
Maybe,
That's
man,
it.
I hope not.
It just requires two main reasons, or a conflict between two main or three main powers, like between China, India, and USA, China, and Russia, European Union.
I'd say-
Okay, we're done. That's
Yeah.
it.
No,
That's
I
it.
can see that if the situation between Russia and Ukraine boils over, if China goes to Taiwan, even if Iran starts to bolster, more funding for groups to fight, Israel and whatnot, and if
Yeah.
North Korea could even hit Japan, at the end of the day, we're
Well-
left with a situation where that's the spark. That's the spark that gets everyone.
If
to
some
go off.
stupid push a button, that's it.
That's it.
We're all
That's-
done. As you said, they're financing some groups, proxies in Yemen, in Syria,
Yep.
in Palestine, in Lebanon. You see, maybe even in Libya, and you see,
Yep.
it's playing it safe because it knows that if USA decided to hit them, they're gonna do a mass destruction there. You see, so they're just playing it politically,
Yep.
like smartly. I did nothing, just prove it, and they're just damaging USA profits in
Right.
this region, Middle East. Okay.
Well, no, it's again, you're on a roll. You're getting all this out, which is awesome. But the one thing now it just comes down to is whether it's Israel or Palestine. The question is, if Palestine loses or if Israel loses, what should happen with the people that live there now? Where should the Israelis go? Where should the Palestinians go? What should happen to them?
Well, the only solution I see now is to neutralize that land.
Yep.
Neutralize it, like literally, even though it's impossible, because Israeli won't accept this solution.
Have a third
even
party.
Palestinians.
Have a third party, a third country
A
rule over
third
both of
but
them.
third party didn't work because United Nations is the only third party that can do this, but it is owned also by US through financing, because USA is the most contributor in financing United Nations. Even let's say it is the third party, United Nations, even if it decide this is a neutralized land, we're gonna control it and keep everyone safe. Israel won't accept, Palestinian won't accept. You
Well,
see?
I will say this: for over 500 years, the Turkish Ottoman Empire did rule that region.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the beginning, it was relatively fine under, Sultan Suleiman. But then, obviously, later on, as centuries passed, obviously Turkey became more corrupt. It wasn't too great. There were many revolts in the Middle East. The Arabs revolted and whatnot. But for the most part, they seem to have kept the region in order for well over 500 years. It's
Yes.
only been just
Even
recently.
more, even more.
Yeah, just over 500 years. It's just
Yeah.
that recently what's happened is that
Yeah.
with obviously the Arab Spring, all of the Middle Eastern countries have gone through massive revolts, and now the Middle East is effectively a bloodbath, and this is because of a power vacuum. So the question is, what third party, should rule over otherwise? Like, there has to be someone to
the
step
thing
in.
is, though, like in terms of neutrality, would mean that there's no religion, because the third party would have to be a Christian
No.
in order for it to work out.
It need to be.
Would you reckon an atheist would run Israel?
No,
considering that's
no,
the most spiritual place in the world?
He should not come with his religion. He should come as a person. He should not identify himself by religion. No, we're not talking about individual. We're talking about organization or a country or something. You see? But it is impossible. Eventually, it's impossible. It is an unending war.
Oh, there we go.
That's it. That's it. It was like flaming since 3,000 years, and it will continue. This is the fate of that place.
It may
That's
end
it.
very soon.
Since-
we don't
It's
know.
like the
Since-
Tower of Babel in a way.
since Jewish against Egyptians, you know, 3,000 years ago, and it won't stop. That's what I believe. That is a non-solved problem for me,
Well,
for what I know.
Let's hope that the war can end, because I think that the more this continues, the worse it's going to get.
You know why I say this? I know Arabs,
Yeah,
and I know how they think,
yeah,
and how they fight.
yeah,
And I know also Jews,
yeah,
and what
They
they
think,
believe,
yeah.
and how they fight for their beliefs.
yeah,
Everyone is a tough rock.
yeah.
What do the rocks do to each other? Break each other.
They do.
That's it. The only thing here is that Israelis are advantaged because of the wealth and the economy and the politics and the West and everything. But if you make it even, they'll break each other. Everyone will die.
Yeah.
No one. They won't stop until the last child is dead.
That's insane.
That's it. That's
That
it.
is insane.
That is the mentality since 2,000 years, and it won't change.
Current moment in time. We can't look always to the past. The past has problems, yes,
Yeah.
but we need to look to the present and how we're going to fix the problem.
That's exactly
At
right.
this current time, there's genocide. People are dying innocently. It's not good. We've
It's
got
very
kids
terrible.
There's bombings. There's kids dying. You know, and it's not good. We don't want that. If the West had focused and put interests in more important things, such as the Palestinian problem, it would have been solved. But we're too worried about other problems that we have no business in,
That's it.
instead of worrying about something here where there's genocide. And what NATO and the UN and all this stand for is not genocide. So then, in that case, then why are we not fixing the problem in Palestine, where genocide is taking place as we currently speak and children are dying?
Politics. Politics.
That's
It is
correct. Politics.
Well, with that being said, we're up to our next question now. So, who do you think is responsible for the conflict?
Who's responsible? It's the situation there is quite a complicated question just in itself, because this has been brewing for 75 years. It's just not all of a sudden now that the Israelis and the Palestinians have had an ongoing dispute. It's been since the colonial times from the French. But the situation there, it is Palestinian. Palestine is Palestine, and we have to read the books and accept that. But at the same time, Jews have been living in those areas since Jesus' times as well.
Yes.
So we have to understand that as well as Palestinians, but Jews have too. But in regards to the land-wise, it is a Palestinian.
Yeah, I think in that sense that people are saying that the region itself is, well, it was termed for the last 2,000 years, it was Syria Palestina. That
Yes,
was the term for the last
Palestina,
2,000
that's
years. Before then, it was Judea.
Judea, yes.
And then obviously, as we know, a series of invaders
Crusades, the Romans, Byzantines.
It's the
everything.
Babylonians, the Persians, and one group of people come in, another group of people come out.
That's just how it is.
But the people there, they're always going to be one of the same in a sense.
That's correct,
It's
yes.
just simply just a change of name and possibly a change of faith. With that being said, leading on to the next question. Tell me, Alexei, when do you think this conflict might come to an end?
Unfortunately, this conflict will never come to an end. Unfortunately.
Why do you think that?
Well, you just look in history. You look at the Serbs with the in Kosovo, in regards to Serbs in Kosovo. That's
Yugoslavia. Yeah.
Yugoslavia, the
Yeah.
breakup of Yugoslavia, Albanians and Serbians, Croatians and Serbians. You look at Cyprus.
Yeah,
of
Cyprians,
1970,
yeah.
The Cypriots, the Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, and foreign influences and people getting involved that shouldn't have gotten involved in topics and subjects in regards to those nations. So it's just another example of that. This has been brewing for 75 years. Unless they can come to a form of agreement where, as the original plan was set out in 1947, I believe.
The two-state solution?
That's correct. And it actually was that solution. Maybe then there might be some form of peace. But unfortunately, the Israeli side of things has not followed that two-state solution too far, as we can see as the decades have gone
on,
and
yes.
as the 21st century has progressed. It just seems to be going more and more into bigger Israel.
We have this situation where the so-called state of Israel started off as but a tiny speck after World War II.
Correct.
And then obviously leading up to it, the 7-Day War, and then
Yes.
bit by bit, more and more territory was taken, and so there's a situation where the Palestinians, being a majority, turned into a minority in their own land. Essentially, that is what has happened within the last 75 years, which I believe is the big complaint about this topic.
That's correct, that's right, that's very right.
Which leads on to our next question. So, where else in the world do you think this conflict will affect it?
Oh, you just look at it, it's affected everywhere. It's we have our own government here, the Australian government getting involved in something that is not their business.
Yeah.
We've got the Americans getting involved. Again, it's not their business. The West, in general, the whole West, they've been getting involved and have done nothing. They're quick to point fingers and quick to say things, but we send weapons and other things and money to Ukraine, which we, again, no business.
No business, yeah.
But unfortunately, we're not helping the poor Palestinians, and we're getting involved in somewhere where, again, we shouldn't get involved.
You can see a trend here, I guess. You can see a trend.
This trend has been happening since after the Second World War. Korea, Vietnam, Yugoslavia. Where else would you like
Iraq,
to say?
Afghanistan,
Iraq,
Libya,
beautiful.
Syria.
That's right. We've destabilized the Middle East. That's the Western way of life, and we keep going for it.
The idea is that America needs to be world police, they say. Do you agree with that?
I think America needs to look at their own problems. People are starving. People haven't got money to pay their bills, nor get food. I think the Americans with Joe Biden, that doesn't...
Brandon, I hear his name is.
Oh, well, he doesn't know what's going on. Sleepy Joe doesn't know what's going on. He needs to, they need to really sort out their things there.
Yeah.
And worry about their country, because that's quite a mess there.
I can agree
maybe
to that.
Maybe they sort that out, maybe they can help other nations, but they can't even afford to do that. But mind you, they're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And weapons.
Hundreds of billions, I hear.
Oh,
well,
plenty.
Well. Continue on from that. Tell me, why do you think there is a conflict in general? Why do you think they are fighting?
Simply, if someone was to come in if the allies at the time came into your country and said, okay, now we're going to have a two-state solution. This is going to be here. This is there. What are these people? At that time, they were the majority. Their own country was split in half without their consent, without their authority. The allies came in, did what they wanted. Of course there's going to be a conflict. Of course.
It's expected.
Of course it's expected.
If someone comes into your home and says, I have your home now, you're going to be upset if they kick you out of your home.
Cyprus is a perfect example of that. The British and the Americans got involved in Cyprus. Greeks and Turks were living in Cyprus side by side for a very long time, through the Byzantine Empire, through the Ottoman occupation, throughout. Who's Taylor? Okay.
Swifties, they're everywhere.
Yes.
Swifties are terrible.
They had all they were living fine, but look what happened there. The West got involved and caused a problem there. It's just another example of Palestine.
I see. There's definitely...
People are getting involved where they shouldn't get involved.
They just like putting their nose in everyone else's business. It's the way of the world, it seems.
That's the way of the Western world.
Yes. I mean, I will say this. I do see that wars do happen everywhere, but it has been quite clear that within the last 100 years, 150 years, it's been quite evident through the world wars, there has been a sheer amount of Western dominance that is over the top.
But if we even narrow it down in the last 80 years, 75 to 80 years, at the end of the Second World War, that's when we see all these conflicts. It seems to be the same person, the same contributor, the same stirrer, the United States of America.
Yes.
Constantly. From Harry Truman to Lyndon Johnson to Eisenhower.
Reagan.
President Reagan, President Bush, Clinton.
Yeah.
It seems.
And the Obama too.
Obama as well. The only ones that really didn't get involved, actually Kennedy did, but Kennedy was forced. And that was in the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs. That's a whole other story for itself.
What about the Donald?
Donald Trump. I give respect to Donald in regards to he didn't get the United States involved in conflicts. He went to these places, went to his counterparts, went there as a firm leader, a serious leader, wanting to negotiate business, and dealt with the problem on hand.
Yep.
And I think for the 4 years of his administration, the world was great. Biden comes along, and now we've got situations. We had...
That's a good point, actually.
We had the Taliban, the problem there with... name it, please.
Oh, the Taliban, so
Taliban
you had Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, that's
Yep,
correct.
that's right, yep.
We had that situation and just continued on. We had Ukraine.
It's a fair point you've made there. As since Joe Biden went into office, now we have the situation Russia-Ukraine, China now pushing into Taiwan, and now Iran funding the rebels, the Hamas, between Israel and Palestine. Only since Joe Biden came into office. Under Trump, the leaders of Xi Jinping, Putin, and Rouhani and Kim Jong-un would not even dare go out of their way to mess with Trump. They wouldn't dare do it.
That's right.
Biden looks to them like a little doll. They can just push him around.
That's right.
They don't care about any consequences. What's this old man gonna do? That's how they see it
They
anyway.
see it as a pushover. He's a pushover.
Yeah.
And NATO is just the North Atlantic terrorist organization at the end of the day. That's what I call it. That's what it stands for me.
That is so weird. That's the first time we've heard that, but first time for everything. Well, speaking of which, to our last question now. All right, so tell me, how and can we put a stop to this conflict?
Well, in this last 75 years, we can't tell the Israelis that they don't have a state. They've been living there for quite some time now. We have to accept that fact, but we need to go by the original plan of the two-state solution. And I think that would somewhat ease tensions. There might be a little minorities complain here and there, but in a general sense, the conflict would be put to a stop because the two-state solution would have worked if it had gone by what it was planned to do. But again, that's not for me to decide. That's just my opinion at the end of the day in this so-called free country we live in. But yeah, that would be my response.
Oh, man.
I hope that the killing stops and that everyone can find peace.
Let's hope so.
Everyone can find peace around the world because we are living in a pre-World War era.
Yes.
World War era, and it is dangerous. We're in a very dangerous time, and this World War would look much different compared to the last two.
I can agree with that,
there
yes.
There won't be men storming the beaches of Normandy. It will be click of a button and
That's it.
sayonara
Yeah.
very quickly.
That's it.
So let's hope it doesn't get to that.
Let's hope not, man.
And let's hope that these things can be resolved in
A diplomatic way.
A diplomatic
Well, I
way.
hope so,
In
yeah.
a diplomatic way, that's correct. That's perfect.
Yeah.
What I'm saying. Yeah.
What is the situation between Israel and Palestine right now?
Oh, volatile.
Volatile, yeah?
Absolutely volatile.
Chaos.
Yes, chaos. Yep.
Pure
Yep.
madness.
Yep.
Utter
Indeed.
destruction.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, because I've been looking at it, and it seems like, you know, it kind of, like, from what they're saying, it looks as if it came out of nowhere.
Oh no, it's always been this way.
Yep.
As soon as Israel was established in '48, the Arabs didn't like that, and they've warred against them ever since.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they won't be happy until Israel is destroyed completely.
I mean, I know that one thing is for sure, that ever since the so-called, the region itself was, you know, created the State of Israel after World War II, there's been a constant issue in terms of border tension between the so-called the people living in the region of Palestine and the so-called Israelis that are there. There's been a border issue.
Yes.
I've known that for this like 75 or 80 years now.
Yeah. There's a war game playing.
Yeah.
It's a war game, and through propaganda.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of the Western money is going towards Palestine because they
Is
look
that
like
the case,
Israel.
though?
Yes.
Because I thought that like
Yes.
the American military openly funds the Israeli military, the IDF. The American Congress openly funds the IDF.
Depends who's in office.
I know that they definitely send a lot of aid to Palestine. I know that for a fact.
Yes,
But
and it's the aid that gets used for the tunneling.
yeah, no, there's been a lot of things about that too.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, ultimately, who do you think is responsible for the situation between Israel and Palestine?
Responsible?
Yes, for the current conflict.
Well, I have to say it's on the Hamas side, on the Palestinian side, not the people.
I believe the leader of Hamas is Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas.
Okay.
Yep.
I wouldn't know. No.
Fair enough. Well, he's I believe the current leader of Hamas at the moment.
But he's only just a symptom, and the same with Hezbollah.
Yep.
They're proxies for Iran. And
Terrorist groups, yeah. They're all terrorist groups, yep.
And all the time there's an issue that comes to the surface, and there's attacks and all that sort of thing going on. They pressure Israel to give some of the land back again.
Every time they attack.
Yes.
Yep.
That's how Gaza came into being. And Israel gave Gaza back to those that lived there. You can call them Palestinians. That is a fictitious name.
It's a region. Like
it's a region.
It's a regional land.
It's not a people. It's a region, and the people who live there come from the region around Israel.
The Levant.
Syria,
The Levant. Yeah.
Yes.
The Levant. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they constantly become a thorn. The reason for Israel to give Gaza their own rule was in good faith. The day they did it, the day that it became official, over came the rockets.
Yep, the very next day.
Yep, because that's all they do. They just harass them, get world opinion on their side, and so Israel is always under pressure.
But why do you think that they are fighting all the time? Do you have a reason for why they're fighting, or?
Well, it's a spiritual warfare.
It is. I believe there's a spiritual part of it too, as much as a political issue. I do think.
Yeah.
I think a part of it is because that you have three of these religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. They all claim that that region is the most sacred place on earth. So they're all going to be subconsciously wanting that region: the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews.
Only one of those is true.
Yeah. Which one do you think that is?
Well, it's God's land. God has said in Leviticus that Israel is my land and I'll give it to whom I will.
Yep.
And he gave it to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob.
Yep. Sons of Moses too. Yep.
Jacob, his name became Israel. He had 12 sons. And that's where the 12 tribes were established in Israel.
I see.
Why weren't they there now? Because they broke the testament. They broke the covenant with God.
That's right. I believe that's
evil more than.
That would be why the Kingdom of Judah, King Solomon, lost his claim, and then it got split in between two regions, Judah and Israel. Yeah.
Because always behind it is a spiritual warfare, and Israel went after Satan rather than follow God, and therefore they couldn't do it. But all the time, God had a plan. It wasn't surprising what happened to God.
But okay, keep going.
Well,
finish your point.
His plan was for Israel to have a savior. He won't be the savior of Israel, he'll be the savior of the world. And what his plan was to have a son. And that son would be born in Israel at a certain time. And that's what happened. Jesus came, but it also said that he would be rejected by his people.
He was accepted by some, just not all.
Well, they killed him.
That's right.
So we're talking about the leadership. He became a problem to them, as in to the Jews. So they got the Romans to hang him on a cross.
That's right. Although tell me though.
But it was all planned.
When you say that, and you say that it's God's land, isn't that also? And again, like the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, they all say that their God is designated for that land. The Muslims say this. Obviously, the Jews and Christians say this. They all say it.
Yeah, only one of them is true. And that's what God says.
Yeah.
Because Islam do not follow the God of the Bible.
Well, what makes you think that?
It's obvious. You just got to not only read the Quran itself, but look at what they do. If they were doing God's will, they wouldn't be killing the Christians the way they do.
I see that.
They are a murderous death cult. And they don't...
I certainly believe the modern day so-called terrorist groups are radicalized beyond help. I do believe that, yes.
Well, no, from the beginning. From the beginning, they, for a few years, 30 years, Muhammad preached peace. But it didn't work for them. And then they took the sword out and forced people.
It's the way of the world. It's crazy. It's the way of the world.
And from then on, for 600 years, AD 600 is when they started. But from then on, it was the sword that did the
region.
work.
Yeah, no, there's been many different empires in that region. It all goes back to, the four kingdoms, gold, silver, bronze and iron from, Babylon, Persia, the Greeks and the Romans, and then obviously after that, the Arabs, and then the Turks, the Crusaders, and bit by bit, it's just one nation after the other.
Yeah.
The only thing is now is because of all this conflict, where else do you think in the world is going to get affected by this conflict?
Well, the whole world.
The whole world's going to be affected by this, you reckon?
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense.
Like, I thought it would just be a neighbouring region like Egypt, maybe Syria, maybe
No.
Saudi Arabia, Turkey, but you reckon the whole world's going to get dragged into it?
Because there are certain people in the world that want a big fight, a big war.
I can see that. There's been a lot of tension boiling for the
Yeah.
last few decades.
Yeah.
I definitely see that.
Even Biden. Biden's been provoking Russia,
Yeah, he has, hasn't he?
and he's been provoking China.
He
and
certainly
he's been
has.
Provoking
Iran.
Even though he's been, with his words he has, with his actions, is actually different.
A lot of people would say that the one thing that Trump did that Biden didn't do was Trump actually managed to keep those superpowers at bay.
Yes.
Biden's letting them do a free roam and take what they want, you know?
Yes.
Here's an interesting fact, right? Because Trump's now selling Bibles in order to pay back whatever debt he owes, right? But here's another funny thing. Trans Visibility Day is on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And guess who put that in? Biden.
It's a spiritual warfare.
I see that. No, I definitely see that.
Yeah. See, this is all about what's happening in the spirit world. And Satan knows how to get into the minds of people. And what they're doing is hurting the kids. All the
Oh,
time.
definitely. It's always the children that are suffering because, I mean, at the end of the day, children, they have nothing to do with this. They just want to play in the playground.
Yeah,
They don't have time for all this political garbage and whatnot.
But how many of them don't even get to play in the playground?
Exactly
They don't-
right.
They're ripped out the womb
Yeah.
before they're born. And even now, in Biden's era, they want to kill them after birth if that's what the mother wants.
I've been seeing a lot of euthanization happening too.
Yeah.
No, it's quite terrible actually.
Yeah.
But tell me this though, when it comes down to the conflict, when do you think there might be an end to this conflict?
Well, there's a promise in the Bible about Israel. Okay? Israel will be established in the last days.
Yes.
And the promise is that not only will he bless them, nobody will take them out of the land again. There's a time coming soon when Israel's going to be attacked and she will not survive that attack. God can't allow it. His promises, he's not God if he can't keep his promise. That will be the catalyst for when Jesus Christ will return to this world and everything changes. For 1,000 years, he comes to Jerusalem and he reigns for 1,000 years over the world. And I mean, it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
But 1,000 years, it begins to people start to believe in him or not. Not everyone in the world will. And that, after 1,000 years, just before the 1,000 years is up, there's going to be another final war against Satan.
Battle of Armageddon.
Yep.
Oh.
And then there's going to be a new world, or a new earth, new heaven.
Hopefully it'll be a better world.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you.
So your answering your question.
That one, yes.
We don't know when, except you'll know when. You'll certainly know when Israel is threatened big time.
Right, yeah.
And it's coming. You can see it building.
Oh no, there's people saying any time this month it could happen. But with that being said, whether Israel wins or Hamas and the Palestinians win, what should happen to the dispossessed? So if Hamas wins, where should the Israelis go? And if the Hamas wins, and if the Israeli wins, where should the Palestinians go? Because there has to be a winner in the end. Like if one side wins, because at the moment either Israel wins or the Palestinians have to win.
Okay.
Let's just say hypothetically.
Just say this is not going to build up to a third world war yet.
Yep.
And Hamas hopefully will be destroyed.
Israel wins. Okay.
Israel wins.
What happens to the Palestinians now? Where do they go?
They've got to behave themselves.
But would they have to go if their homes aren't there anymore? Where should they go?
What mean their homes are not there anymore?
Well, if they've lost and Israel tells them to leave, well, where do they go? To the neighbouring Arab countries?
No, they're not taking Gaza away from the people that live there. They're only taking the fighting machine.
Oh, Hamas. So it's just okay then. All right. Well, okay. Let's hope that's the case. Now, what if Hamas wins? Where should Israel go?
Well, Hamas can't win.
But if they do, hypothetically.
No, they can't.
What if the Saudis joined in and no one helps Israel?
If Hamas wins, right?
Yep.
And they destroy Israel.
Yep.
Then God isn't real.
Well, this is a hypothetical, but yeah, I see that.
People would say it's a war. Other people would say it's not really a war. It's just a genocide.
Yeah.
One-sided war.
Ethnic slaughter, yeah. Mass
slaughter.
ethnic slaughter of civilians,
Exactly. There is no two sides to this war. It's only one side.
yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think is happening right now.
That's pretty much a very good summary of the situation from an outward perspective. It's essentially that from, October 6th in 2023, the state of Israel was attacked by a so-called, what they deem as a terrorist group, Hamas, that has attacked them, or these so-called Palestinian freedom fighters have pushed out Israel, so they say. And now, from the coverage, Israel has retaliated with excessive amount of force to the point in which it's gone just beyond a so-called retaliation. It's become a mass collateral damage and ethnic slaughtering of tens of thousands of civilians, way beyond anything that anyone could have ever imagined.
Right.
So that's essentially, in a nutshell, what is currently happening between Israel and Palestine.
7th is what most people are. Well, it's a propaganda.
It's all emphasis. There's way too much emphasis on what happened on October 6th.
Right,
yeah.
right. They tried to make October 7th seem like the start of this war.
Yes.
This war has been happening for decades and decades before that.
A very long time.
Very, very long time.
A very long time.
If anything, October was literally the reason Israel needed to do all these atrocities that
Yep.
they're doing currently. And it's literally an excuse for the whole world, blaming Hamas as a terrorist organization, when in reality they are the freedom people of Palestine.
I was going to say, because I was looking at it, and most of the time is literally just Palestinians that have had their homes taken from them straight away just join Hamas because they took my home. I'm going to join the first person to give me a chance to take it back.
And look,
So that's what I'm hearing.
Let me ask you this: if you and I were Palestinian,
Yep.
our brothers are being oppressed every single day.
Yep.
Would we not join Hamas?
I'll tell you right
As a man,
now,
I would.
if I was in a situation and someone tried kicking me out of my own home, I'd say, get the fuck out of my house.
about it.
And if they did force me out of my own home and I was given a chance for freedom, you bet I'm either going to do
I'm
two
grabbing
things.
a gun.
If I was in a big situation and I had no one left, I might run away. But if I had nothing left to lose, you bet I'm going for the nearest guy giving me the chance to fight back. I'm being straight up. If someone thinks they can kick me out of my own home, you can take a fucking hike. I'm going to fight back. Of course I'm going to fight back.
Exactly.
It's a very fair response. I will agree to that.
Completely justified. They're completely justified.
In that sense, in terms of one getting kicked around, everyone has the right to defend themselves. Everyone does.
Right.
And of
And
course,
isn't it
this is
crazy?
the thing though, is that they're saying Israel is defending themselves from the
Right, that just
Palestinians,
completely
right?
flipped the entire story of the region.
So they
In
say.
reality, it's the Palestinians defending themselves on October 7th.
The media has an interesting way of painting the victims like the oppressors and the oppressors like the victims. It's quite something to
Is
see.
it not wicked, eh?
It's truly something else. The whole strip landlocked and no one can come in and out?
No. The point is they can let peaceful people get out. They don't want Hamas to get out. But the point is, if let's say Syria, Egypt, whatever it is,
Yeah.
get peaceful people out. Get Palestinians out. But Palestinians want to stand and protect you know what I'm talking about.
I get your drift, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's their choice. If you want to protect criminal, you choose yourself to protect criminal.
Yeah.
It's not protecting land. It's protecting people who are destroying all that land.
I understand.
That's it. That's the difference.
But do you think, like, the reason why they can't leave is because they're landlocked? They say that they're a landlocked region.
No,
They can't let anyone come in or out.
Yeah, they can let the Israel can check it out who's coming out. They will not let
Oh, yeah,
Hamas
they
get
can,
out.
but not the Palestinians, though.
No, Palestinians can get out. If it's a Palestinian, not Hamas. You don't hear me again.
Oh, no, they won't let Hamas out. I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can let Palestinians go.
Yeah.
But they don't want to go. Because we want to support war.
You read the letter from Osama bin Laden.
I've read some things about various groups, yes, and peoples, yes.
Yeah, he said something along the lines of the President of the United States is merely a train driver, driving a train laid down by the tracks, laid down by the Jewish people in Washington, New York, California.
Yep.
With this whole thing, this is not to say this is hate towards the Jews
Yep.
or a specific type of people. This is just the events that are happening right now and the groups of people involved. Now, we're not saying all Jews are Palestinian killers. That's not the intention at all. What it is
America has a big play in the idea of having a Jewish state, and that state does not belong to them in any way, shape, or form. So it's completely wrong, but it has nothing to do with the Jewish people.
The who, what, when, where, why, and how of Israel came into conflict with Palestine. Let's go for it. First and foremost, obviously, this is not something that started early October last year. This is I think we can all agree from the very get-go, this is not just to be it's all just that small event that happened on, I think it was October 6th, October 7th, I believe. Was it
October 7th.
October 7th? Yeah. So it was definitely not to just be all equated to that one event. Obviously, there's a lot much more to it than that one event. I think we can all agree on that. Although everyone nowadays is saying it's all because of that one event, and then what happened the day later. So the Hamas attack, and then obviously the IDF and Israel Gaza retaliating. Yeah, it's much more than just a attack defend situation. So much more than just that.
Mm-hmm. Would you like me to give my 2 cents on the topic, or you can?
Well, I was going to say, like, you definitely agree that there's much more to it than that, obviously.
Yeah, this was a special. It was a special kind of event. It wasn't something that had ever happened to the sovereign state of Israel in its entire existence, this 70 years or so, where a foreign, tyrannical regime tries to actually take over, to, not respecting the borders of another sovereign state, and actually trying to conquer some of the land. And actually, this was a special occurrence. It's not something that ever happened, really. So the response had to. This is the catalyst for that actually began this entire saga in the Middle East that unfortunately developed into a multi-front sort of conflict and war on many
add to that
fronts.
really quick. Sorry to cut you off, guy, but as of right now, how many
Yeah.
fronts are there? Because I believe that obviously there's Gaza, and then there's also, I believe, in Syria and parts of Lebanon too. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Hezbollah, profess or claimed outright that it will support their Gazan brothers, Palestinians, until the Israeli aggression and attacks will stop. I'm just interpreting their views and perspectives. It's not my own opinion and view and perspective. So they will sort of give a helping hand to their Palestinian brothers, not too dissimilarly to the Houthis in Yemen, who themselves have launched in the past missile attacks and rocket fire to Israel. Just last night, a new front was opened.
With Iran. Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. Wow.
With Iran, and the entire world's eyes actually followed as these rockets left Iran. It took them some time to get to Israel, but they did not succeed in actually hitting their quality targets.
Yeah, all I can say is that the
So it
missiles
was
went through,
largely
but they didn't hit anything. Yeah.
largely unsuccessful. I'll tell you what, it was always like that. The tensions were running high between the different communities, ethnic groups, beliefs. Of course, Arabs are not just all Muslim. They have the Druze and the Christians, and there are some Muslims who believe in the Baha'i faith. There are some Armenian that consider themselves to be Arabs, but not Muslims per se, and they have their own Christian Orthodox or Greek Christian
Yeah,
or Orthodox
Coptic rights. Yeah.
beliefs. Yeah, Coptic is a more Egyptian flavor of Orthodox
And Ethiopian
Christianity,
too.
but we
Yeah.
won't
Yeah.
we won't get into it. It's not the history that we want to focus on in this discussion and forum. So tensions are running high, and identity conflicts have always been a mainstay. It comes with the territory for thousands of years. So nothing is new under the sun. Referring specifically to the ultra orthodox, strict, observant Jews that perceive some of the people, not all of them, not all ultra orthodox and observant Jews actually hold that notion or that kind of racism. That racism actually exists in Islam, in Judaism. It says that it is a tribal mentality. It is an anthropological, social kind of turn of phrase. Um, there will always be in a society. There will be the core populace, and then there will be foreigners, migrants, people who cannot understand and will never be a part of that society. But in today's modern world, it's different. There are a lot of common things when it comes to, popular culture, and a lot of people actually open up to the world and different cultures and try to understand. But of course, there are people who still hold these medieval concepts um, in themselves, and actually, they have this bias or internal bias against the other. So I don't know what to tell you. There are some people who will always, hate the Jews. The Jews are the aggressor. The Jews are the other. They are the people of the book. So we can't completely annihilate all the Jews until Judgment Day actually comes, and the final war will be waged between the Jews and the Muslims. They believe that the Jews should be serfs. They should be considered as dhimmi. They have to pay the jizya to the main caliphate that will be reinstated, and at some point will actually be able to take over the entire world.
The Ummah.
So
Yeah.
that the Ummah, the Islamic nation,
Yeah.
there are those people. And there are other fanatics on the other side, of course.
You know, I do
There
agree
are
with the bulk of that. I do. Like, I think that there are definitely going to be many extremists from multiple groups. There's obviously, it's not a one-sided thing. Like, there's going to be extremists in every group, just like in a general sense, there's
Mhm.
good and bad people everywhere you go, obviously.
Mhm.
I think that what is now coming to light in this sense is that people are trying to see exactly why there's all of these things coming out to the mainstream where they've had
Mhm.
trips to Israel, be it the city of Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, mainly those two, and they've noticed on many occasions that, oh, why is it that some of the Arab population, whether they be Christians or Muslims, seem to be somewhat worse off than the main Hebrew Israeli
Mhm.
population? Why is that the case? Is there some kind of a segregation thing or apartheid? And that keeps getting thrown out and out because more and more
Mhm.
people nowadays are bringing it to light after the events in October.
Mhm. Yeah, the segregation. You know, Jaffa was considered. It's a kind of a district that was reserved for only for Muslims for a long time.
Mhm.
After um,
The
the
Ottomans there? Or
Jews.
no, just the
No,
Caliphate, I
no,
think.
no. Um, in 1933, I think, or 2024 or 23, there were also pogrom on Jews in Jaffa and Tel Aviv, and they were forced to migrate to the northern southern side of Tel Aviv, and so Jaffa and Tel Aviv split into two different municipalities, and now we have the prefix and the suffix for Jaffa, Tel Aviv, Yafo. So we have Tel Aviv, Jaffa, the prefix and the suffix. So these are two cities that are one, like Budapest. Most people don't know that Budapest are actually two twin cities
Yeah.
that were combined into one.
I believe it originally was at one point just called Pest. Not even, yeah, and then Budapest. Yeah.
Yeah, Buddha is the kind of ancient uh, city or old town city.
Well, yeah, like I can definitely see that obviously there's, in regards to movements of peoples and
So
diaspora,
so
replacement and all that.
that's kind of a arbitrary segregation. Another one, the British monarchy would actually ruled Israel. Israel was a subsidiary, essentially, or a province of the British Empire.
Although, just
Um,
say what you mean when you say Israel there, because I'm pretty sure, looking geographically speaking, that region
mhm.
at that point was not being referred to as Israel. It was still being referred to
I
as
know,
Palestine back then.
I know it was Palestine. Even the British called it Palestine. They inherited that term from the Turks, which they actually managed to expel the Turkish forces from the peninsula. They were forced, to run. They couldn't. The Turkish Empire is sort of lost
Yeah, the Ottoman
its
Empire fell apart.
credo.
They signed the Treaty
It's
of Sevres, and that pretty much forced them to
it's
release all those areas to the British, pretty
its
much.
credo. Yeah, its credo and power. The British actually, um, well, they would eventually get to the Middle East at some point, um, but that was the pretext. Um, So you had the declaration of, of kind of seeing eye to eye. Arthur Balfour wrote a letter in 1915 or 17.
With a certain
No,
Rothschild
not
family member.
1925 or something like that, after the British had come to power.
Balfour Declaration, yeah.
The Balfour Declaration, exactly, that sort of grants the Jewish people in the land of Palestine back then a charter or a kind of general outline of a vision of a state or a home. He called it for the Jewish people. Next. Mhm. I'll tell you, that's not a foreign concept. Those kinds of visions for Israel's future and its magnitude and expansion. That's not a foreign concept. It appears in the Bible. In the Bible it says that the land, the kingdom of Israel, would exceed Syria and Lebanon, um, to the north and to the west, um, Jordan and all that stuff. But, you know, how much reliable can it be? It's, uh, the credence of such claims is oftentimes impossible to verify. That's the concept of salvation, but that salvation includes the entirety of humanity. So that's a different concept. If you want to get into it, I'm fine with talking about it. I won't shy away from such matters
One
and
concept I would like
topics,
to get
whatever.
into, if you don't mind me getting into, I'd like to go more towards the end of
Go
World
ahead.
War One and the so-called
Mhm.
information in regarding to the Balfour Declaration and the
Mhm.
actual source from where how that was instigated and led to the current situation today. If we could get more into that, I think it
Okay.
could add the valued context. So
Okay, whatever you would like to say, to talk about.
in regards to the Balfour Declaration happening, a lot of people have been saying and suggesting that obviously it was the key defining factor that led to the creation of the state of Israel. Would you not agree with that?
I repeat the question. I didn't understand what you said
Yeah,
exactly.
sure. The Balfour Declaration was one of the key factors that would lead towards the creation of the Israeli state. Would you agree with that?
It's not one of the main factors, but it's one of the key, to the puzzle of the state of Israel. The state of Israel, after the Second World War, was sort of a given. After the Second World War, it was a unanimous consensus among all the sovereign nations of the world. The UN didn't exist back then. You had the axis of power of nations. Um, so yeah, it's a contributing factor to the existence of the state of Israel, but it's by no means, the main factor or the main catalyst or reason or progenitor of the existence of the state of Israel.
I'd like to elaborate just on that really quickly. Would you say that obviously the state of Israel, it's a foremost democratic state with somewhat liberal values and traditions. It's not, and by no means it's not an authoritarian communist state. By no means, it's definitely a first world country,
I'll tell
a
you.
democratic nation. Would you classify it like that?
Yes, I would classify it as a sort of first world nation in a lot of ways. But in its burgeoning years as a sovereign state, Israel was actually established as a semi-socialist type of governance system. Yeah, a more Stalinistic kind of flavor to it, but less Marxist. Yeah, Marx was Jewish, and a lot of people, a lot of important figures from history are Jewish. It doesn't mean that they uphold, the morals of the Jewish teachings or belief. Most Jews are not that observant. They are not that adherent to the belief and the code of law of Judaism. They do not practice a lot of the rituals and religious and the theological monotheism or whatever you would like to classify yourself as. So yeah, it's true that in Europe, the Nazis did not invent the ghettos. The ghettos were set in place, even in ancient Rome and Italy. There were Jews who lived in squalor in
Pale of
communities that
settlement.
were. No, not the Pale of Settlement. The Pale of Settlement refers specifically to the regions in Russia and Ukraine where
Oh yeah.
Jews were permitted to live. That's different. That's not the Pale of Settlement. So Jews were living in ghettos ever since the diaspora was created, and Jews were scattered after the destruction of the Second Temple by Vespasian, emperor of Rome, and his son Titus, that actually spearheaded the destruction of the temple.
I thought it
So
was Emperor
yeah,
Hadrian that
Jews.
officially. I thought it was Emperor Hadrian that officially expelled them, though. Was it? I mean, I know Titus destroyed the
Mhm.
temple, but Hadrian was the one that officially expelled it and then rechanged it from
Mhm.
Judah,
No,
Israel, into
a lot of
Syria and
people.
Palestina.
A lot of people fled. Specifically, I'll tell you, they fled to Egypt. Um, so there was a big cultural, spiritual center that was starting to form in the first century AD, Jewish center of learning and spirituality, philosophy, theology, all those disciplines. Um, a large, there was even weird, if you want to get into actually to get deeper into Jewish learning and history, I will tell you a small tidbit. There were people, there were researchers, specifically Jewish researchers in the 1950s or 60s, that wrote some essays referring to a certain temple. They believed they have evidence that the high priests or the priesthood actually migrated to Egypt, and there they actually built an alternative temple. As insane as it sounds, I do not believe in that theory as it is per se, but if I don't think it has any credence or
Oh, fair. It is
or
interesting to think that they built another temple after the second one got destroyed. That is, even I
yeah,
had not heard of that one. So there you go. There's something to think
yeah.
about
I don't
there.
know how. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to the veracity of that claim, but nonetheless, it exists.
Oh, fair enough. Well, if you don't mind, just quickly jumping back to that small talk about the Balfour Declaration, so it's just to finish up on it because I feel like we left that a little bit empty-handed. So,
Okay.
looking at obviously the situation of the end of the First World War, so the region was at the will of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. It had been so for 500 years, more or less. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, after the British had both defeated the Ottomans' allies, that be it the Prussians, Germany, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you have
Mm-hmm.
the collapse of those powers, and obviously that land is given to the British. Of course, not forever, but for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, though, realizing that the Rothschilds, went, hand in hand with the Balfours to get that declaration signed and to
Mm-hmm.
have groups of Jews take up portions of that land.
Okay.
Do you see how, in a sense, that obviously why a lot of people out there are somewhat annoyed that if someone just on a fundamental level here, like not just I'm not trying to get political or religious or anything, but like if you had a whole bunch of land and then you were being told that someone was going to sign something that would basically take and own all of your land. Did you see how that not
Mm-hmm.
like later on down the track that might lead to a problematic
Mm-hmm.
situation?
I can't speak to the historicity of that subject. I'm not a historian. As I said, I don't know which territories exactly were promised
Okay, fair enough.
in that declaration. I don't know how, you know, the how the divide actually occurred. How can you split that land into so many different people and landowners? I don't know how that happened exactly, but it's not that simple. That they were just promised the land. To this is actually the new Eden, Arcadia. The people in the Renaissance would call it. Um, you know,
Zion.
Utopia. Utopia. Thomas More will call it like that. Um, so people saw this kind of burgeoning new land, and they had the Zionist ideals, instilled in them, speaking Hebrew rather than Yiddish or Polish or German or Hungarian, and Theodor Herzl
Theodore
was a
Herzl was the
young
one. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
was he was a sort of visionary, the prophet of Zionism. There are other people, one Zionist member, and you have to remember that Zionism was an actual institution. It's not a conspiracy theory. They did not plan, on world domination, and they did not hatch plans, to intercede in the affairs of sovereign states. That's a lie.
Although with
Um,
that being said, yeah, okay, we'll go to that. What is Zionism?
it's not that simple. Zionism started actually looking back into the Jewish origins, because after the Enlightenment and the Emancipation in the French Revolution, headed by Bonaparte, Napoleon, who actually emancipated the Jews. And for the first time in hundreds of years, Jews were permitted to leave the ghettos. They were permitted to work and live with the population, the local original population, ethnically. So they assimilated into the main culture. They established themselves in key positions. They were doctors and explorers and academics and professors. They did not stick to the traditional occupations that Jews actually had in the ghettos, which is mainly money, money. How do you
Money
call it?
laundering or just
Money? No,
loaning?
no, no. Money
Loaning?
lending.
Money lending.
Money lending because Christians, Catholic Christians, there was a bulla issued by the Pope, a papal bull, that Christians cannot charge an interest on lending
It's called usury,
for
yes, usury.
for for other Christians. So Jews, it was a kind of a ripe for the picking for Jews, and it was an untapped market. So that kind of work or labor or endeavor was allocated to the Jewish population, who were very, very versed in mathematics. They had no problem, um, they had no problem when it came to arguing or bargaining for prices.
Haggling. Yeah, haggling, lots of haggling.
Yeah, bartering, haggling. Um, so yeah, Zionism and people in power, Zionists, um,
Like the
they sort of
Rothschilds.
they started looking back to their Jewish origins because there were a lot of Jewish families that actually converted into Christianity. And converting into Christianity and Judaism was the key, the key for to open up to the culture. But most people, most members of the Zionist movement, they were not called an institution. They tried to mimic some of the movements in Europe, the Enlightenment, for example. So they called themselves, they coined their organization, a movement, the Zionist movement, and it was truly, uh, all-encompassing movement when it came to economics, education, um, business affairs, uh, actually trying to uh, save or to save some Jews who were in trouble. Um, you know,
It's like a
wherever
community thing in a way.
wherever Jews suffered under whichever regime, Zionism will try. It was a kind of UN for Judaism. Yeah.
Fair enough. No, okay, it seems to some, and I guess obviously, well, although to put into perspective with that, So you would see, in a sense, that if the Rothschild family, who happens to be a very prominent banking family of Jewish, of Jewish
Maybe the
descent and
most
whatnot,
prominent.
they have obviously quite sway and a lot of influence over the financial institutions of Europe and now the world. It would
Hmm.
have a lot of people saying it seems, you know, quite sus in a way in which they have a deal with, again, Lord Balfour, but at the same time, you you can almost kind of suspect, okay, like obviously all these Jews are now taking all the land in that region, and the Rothschilds, who have enormous financial influence, can just openly keep funding it with Lord Balfour. And going back to that, a lot of people are saying it still has obviously left disproportionate amounts of people in that region disowned, without land, left homeless, even left just dispossessed of all their belongings. And the
Hmm.
question is, well, with all of that happening, exactly, do you see that in again? I know what, because we went back and forth for a bit. So just to re-elaborate like what we were saying, but do you still see that how because of that, it's pretty much led to at least half of the problems in regards to people in that region, just which parts of the land were being taken and which parts were Palestinian owned, which parts were, Israeli owned. But
Hmm.
as a whole, though, do you see how the
I'll
border
tell you
tension
what.
mainly comes to the land itself between the Israelis migrating and the Palestinians that are living there? It's just it's a never ending border tension is where I'm getting at.
Hmm. I'll tell you what. Palestine never existed.
As an
That's a
actual state, I
term.
can see that. It's a region of land. I understand that.
That's a term. That's a term that the Romans used for the for Judah. The kingdom. It was called the Kingdom of Judah. It was not called Israel back then,
Yeah.
because the Kingdom of Israel and all the tribe, as we've mentioned, they all disappeared somehow. You know, I don't like to, there's a term called hagiographical. It's pseudo historical. It's not, sorry? Yeah, hagiographical. Yeah. So it's fine. No worries. So it's a kind of a pseudo alternative history. I don't know how the tribes disappeared or why. Um, it was called the land of Judah. Um, and Jews were actually considered a pariah in Roman times because the Jews refused to work on the Sabbath, and they were so contradictory, and they were a strict opposition to Roman ideals. You have to give credence, and uh, you have to give offerings to different gods, and you have to participate in the different festivities.
Yeah, it's a culture's separatism. It's just separatism. Some cultures have different belief systems. They can't coexist that well. It's
Yeah, and the
separatism in
Romans, did not take, the Jews, they sort of said, "Thank you so much, but we are not interested in what you have to offer."
yeah.
And the Romans did not take that lightly, and they brought down, the eagle hammer on the Jewish population. And because the Jews were such fierce opponents uh, to the Romans, they were nicknamed like the Philistines. They were so the entire region was called Syria Palestina.
Yes.
Okay,
Emperor Hadrian did that, yes.
Palestina refers also to the Philistines of the Bible, but also to the kind of plateau in which Jerusalem kind of hangs upon, because Jerusalem is a mound. You know, it's not a surface level
Yep. You got a bit of hills
type
there.
of
Yep. Yep.
type of city. You know, they have ditches. If you heard, I can't remember his name, but it doesn't matter. They have ditches. They have a great big wall cloistering the city. It's a beautiful place, but it's it similarly to many ancient sacred places and temples. It is situated atop of a mountain, a sort of a mound, and yeah, the tensions are always running high. So the Roman, it was not different with the Romans. They were considered colonizers. There were a lot of Jews, specifically the Jewish kings like Herod. They were completely Hellenized. They absorbed, absorbed and adopted
Greek
many
customs
of
and
the
culture. Yeah.
Hellenistic rituals, cultures. You know, they even um, uh, Roman Romanized their names to sound more Roman, Latin. Herod, for example, is not is not a very Jewish name in origin. It's more Hellenistic. So yeah,
As a state, Palestine
getting
has
back.
never existed, but the cultures and people in that region are constantly changing. Like it's
Yes, it doesn't
I wouldn't
matter.
say maybe a melting
Right,
pot, although
now, I'll tell you what. Right now, it doesn't matter what they choose to call themselves.
yeah,
Um, they are just they are just a people. Um, they 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 have their kind of territory that is theirs. Um, I'll tell you what. This is a this is a zero sum game. Um, if you remove any of the components, you know, if anything shifts from Judea and Samaria, if that will be resolved, I don't know, through military or
diplomatic
or
maybe.
diplomatic or delegatory means or channels. We have, you know, the Judea and Samaria is the allocated sort of territory for some Palestinians, or what they choose to call themselves, Palestinians. Their identity is sort of muddled because they came from Egypt and Syria and Jordan and Lebanon and Libya and all those places. So they sort of mingled or commingled, and now they have their own unified identity, which is not based on a lot, but
I see. No, and
but
that's a big
but
misconception. No, I
nonetheless,
will agree with that.
none
Like it's yeah, it's pretty
yeah, but
much just a melting
nonetheless,
pot. it's a melting pot of different cultures and peoples. Like I can see that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing with that. Like everyone's saying
yeah.
that there are Palestinian people and
Ethnically,
all, and yeah,
ethnically, they are not one. They are not one people. But even when even the Arab language has dozens of different dialects. It's not a unified, codified um, language by any means because there were different developments within the language. Um, so, trying to answer your question, I don't know. Simply put, I don't know about that particular history that Jews were actually given a charter to basically go and build and to expel people from their own lands, from their forefathers' lands. I don't know what to tell you. Is it just a second? Is it a game of economics? Is it a game of world diplomacy on the world stage, trying
is it
to
just
gain
social
favor?
stuff, civil stuff? I
I
guess. Yeah.
I don't know. Racially, Zionists are not racist, not a bit. I noticed
I think there's parts
none of
of it
them.
that do come off with a bit of bigotry, to say the very least, considering many
I'll
sources
tell you what.
suggesting Israelis
It's not.
looking down on the Arabs. But
No, I will concede that the Zionists were idealists. Um, I don't, and I will concede that some of the areas of Zionism was actually detrimental and dangerous and inherently racist and biased. I will concede that. But on the other hand, I think there were those forces that were idealists and they did not want to expel the entire population that was living in the state of Palestine. It wasn't even a state, It was
yeah, it was a
it was a
region. It was
sort
a
of
region. It was
it
a
was
region.
it was a province. It was a province actually, or a colony. A region. Everything is a region,
The
but
wording is a bit, but yeah,
that's
it's
a
not a state. It's not
that's
a
a
kingdom.
colony.
It's a, yeah.
As a colony, the Romans would call them provinces, provinciae. Um, but yeah, to sum it up, the shorthand answer is I don't know enough about this. You have to understand that those expansions that you keep mentioning, they are rogue kind of forces. They are not the mainstream. They are not organized or funded by the government, not by any shape or form. A lot of laws and acts that declare that there needs to be reinstating of the Jewish population in these areas. A lot of it is not implemented. It's just it's similar to guerrilla kind of warfare, and there are those extremists that actually take aggression, aggressive, um, and sometimes even violent act towards um, the people living in their villages and their areas, Arabs. And I don't agree with that.
Thing is with
Mhm.
Hamas is that, considering whether or not you believe that they're a terrorist organization or a group of freedom fighters, they are deeply indoctrinated by Wahhabism, which is an extremely
Mhm.
hardcore sect of the Islamic
Walid
faith.
ibn Wahhab.
Ibn Wahhab, yeah, in the 18th century and whatnot. And
Yes.
essentially, what has happened is, likewise,
He said
along with the Balfour Declaration, what was that?
he said that we don't need more talks of we don't want to talk to anybody or to have diplomacy,
Yeah.
delegations. No, none of that will actually bring on the caliphate. The thing that we need to do, we need to amass a large deposit or cache of guns, weapons, tanks, whatever
Yeah. It's essentially what the
comes
Saudis are trying to do in a sense.
to
Ever
our
since,
possession.
yeah, what has happened is, which is again obviously feeding fuel to the fire. It's not great to see that there's dispossessed people of their land in the Palestinian region, but to
Yeah.
even increase this problem and add salt to the wound is to see how neighboring Bedouins, after Lawrence of Arabia overthrew the Turks with the help of the Arabs, have the Wahhabist
Mhm.
doctrine pushed through the Arab populations with endless amounts of Western support, radicalizing all of the Arabs and Muslims in the Middle East, and then having them effectively conglomerate to form this mass amount of radical Islamic terrorism, which, as you can know,
Mhm.
Israel takes extremely seriously in regards to, its security and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah. Of course, the state of Israel takes any, the most remote threat as not a direct, of course, assault on its land, but it takes it into consideration. It jots down. They monitor it, the source, the origin of that threat. Regarding, there are a couple. This is a sort of fourth dimensional chess game you're talking about. Actually
It's a bit more
trying
in
to
depth, yeah.
disseminate and propagate and promulgate these ideals and concepts of Wahhabism into the local population. That's a sort of 3D chess kind of game, which I can't take that factor into consideration because I have a lot of lacunae when it comes to those areas in history. Um, you know, you know, I don't know. I think I answered your question.
No, like I understand. No, you're right. Israel does take it very seriously, but I think that you just as a whole, like it can be expected that there will be most likely major resistance from people in that region, not just because of
Mhm.
what happened in October 7th, but because in general they have now been deeply indoctrinated to constantly want to fight you all the time. And I think that,
Mhm.
you know, would you ever, like in just pushing the history part of it aside, though, do you see that just on a diplomatic level, if that's even still an option, do you think that being an Israeli yourself, if the Palestinians came to you guys and asked for a ceasefire, not your government, but just you as a person, would you say yes? I agree that we should stop fighting you guys. Would you say that? And
Mm.
again, this is not just look at it just like in the most basic terms. Would you agree to a ceasefire one on one with the Palestinians?
Firstly,
It's
it
a big
will take
question.
some.
I get it. It's yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I have my answer for it at least. I don't know if it's satisfactory, but we'll see. Um, Firstly, it will take a long period of time to actually broker a deal. Um, there are so many factors that go into actually achieving a long-standing, uh, at least a ceasefire, complete, ceasefire. Um, I can't see that happening, but if it were a possibility, um, it will take a long time to broker the deal. The rules of conduct, engagement. What is forbidden, what is permitted under those agreements. Um, it will take a long time to come to terms um, with all the different factors and components that are interweaved into this region. And but yeah, I'm hopeful that I will get a resolution uh, to the conflict. Yeah, I would like to see that. On the
Fair
other
enough.
hand, on
Wait,
the
hold on. You
other
said on the other
hand,
hand, I want to wait. Hold on. Who wants to go first? I just want to.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
On the other hand, you'll answer. All right, all right. Go ahead.
On the other hand, the code of law of the desert dictates that a man should not, it exists today. No Arab may sell property to Jews. It will be a death sentence. It will be, um, I forgot the term for it. There's, well, I'll get it back.
You mean like just Sharia law
Um,
in general, or? Oh, okay.
it's not Sharia law. It's not Sharia law. It's the code of the desert. Um, when a tribe encroaches on the territory of another tribe, it it eventually leads, of course, to a bloody conflict. Um, the dispute over land will make it. You cannot by any means satisfy all the different factions and states and different ethnic groups. Uh, you cannot satisfy everyone. You will always have to make concessions, and that's the hard part. Yeah,
You please one group and the other group hates you. I see that. Yeah.
exactly. Israel will always be perceived as the aggressor, the culprit, the perpetrator. It will not end, there. There were, there will always be some forces and states and, you know, and factions that will see Israel as a foreign kind of colonizer, and they will be able to twist it, so people will think that Israel is the aggressor, is the violent Westerner, you know, taking control and subduing the local population. It will always be perceived like that. This is the communist ideal. There are people, there is the proletariat, and there's the ruling class, the oligarchies, and they need to be shut down. They need to be dismantled. Um, all the finance should be allocated equally across the board, and no one person can attain all the power and authority to himself. So to shake off that image, it will take a long time for Israel to actually be able to abandon that image in the minds of foreign countries and states and peoples. it will take some ruminating and brewing before that actually happens, where Israel's image actually improves, and Israel will actually be considered as a competitor, in the world stage. So
Okay.
that will take some time.
Well, you see, you mentioned take some time, but in regards to that, you see, you said communism with the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie, and whatnot. It's
Hmm.
now obviously Marx and Lenin were mentioned earlier in this conversation. Now
Hmm.
you are aware of Bolshevism, I'm assuming,
Of course.
and it happens to be that a portion of the founders of the Bolshevik Party happen to have been communist Jews. Obviously
Yeah,
different from
I'm
Zionism, but
aware.
still
I'm
Jewish to
aware. I'm aware of that. Like Leon Trotsky.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's obviously Lenin, yep, of course. Now, you know that some people, and again, they're just saying, but I've been looking into it, they've been saying it is interesting to see how, in regards to the communist Jews overthrowing the Tsar in Russia, turned the Russian
I
population.
don't know about that, but okay.
Well,
You know.
this is, I mean, look, they don't call it the Russian Revolution. They call it the October Revolution because
The 15th
fundamentally
of October Revolution at the 5th
they,
of October.
yeah, the Red Army effectively just overthrew the White Army in Russia and
Hmm.
established this first communist state, and it basically enslaved the entire Russian population and occupied them forcibly, and and enabled communism. And with that
Hmm.
being said, they're saying it's strange to see how, in a weird way, Israel has pretty much occupied the Palestinian region and basically enacted their own
It's not the
communism in a way.
same. It's not.
It would, but
Um.
they're saying that the
Well,
way that they have enslaved and exploited the same populations, there seems to be some
I
kind of
wouldn't. It's
connection.
not communism. It's not the same as communism. It
They
is.
are deeply controlling what
It's
kind of
socialism.
resources they get, though, are
It,
they not? There's an
it,
occupied territory. And how do you not see the link between the communist
I'll
Jews
tell you what.
controlling Russia and the so-called Jews controlling the Palestinian region, and how they've enacted the
Mm,
communism through the redistribution of resources in occupied Palestine to the Russian peasantry? Do you not see how they've redistributed the
mhm.
resources and enclosed it while occupying the West Bank? Do you not see the connection there?
Yeah, but the people, the elite ruling classes of communism, they were not just Jews, not by any
No,
means.
no, no, no. Not all of them were Jews. Not all communists were Jews. By no means. No.
Specifically in Russia, a lot of Jews were actually executed and
I know. No,
pogrom,
Stalin had thousands of Jews
pogroms,
killed. I'm well aware.
pogroms that were issued by the state. Um, so that sort of theory does not hold water.
I think
Um,
there's a sense of it that rings a bell, though.
no, when it regards to Israel and socialism, I would say, yeah, there are some similarities. When Israel was first established, um, the kind of financial social system was as such that each family will get benefits according to the number of souls in your family members. Um, uh, an average family will get a stipend of whatever lira there was. Lira is the ancient kind of Turkish currency. It changed after the introduction of the shekel, which is the ancient financial currency and the coin in biblical times for Jewish people in Canaan. Um, so yeah, an average family will get a monthly annuity or a stipend. An annuity refers to the entire year, fiscal year. Jews were permitted to live where the caliphate actually took hold, stranglehold. Um, they were treated as second-class citizens, but they actually thrived. They thrived more in the Arab countries historically than the European ones. Christianity was different. They had the same positions in government as in Europe. They were the king's tax collectors, and they were advisors to different princes and kings, sultans, and uh, I forgot the term for it, but there's a good term. Well, it doesn't matter. Will it come up? Um, so Jews mistreating or kind of subjugating the local population. That's not true.
Well, a lot of people
Historically,
beg to differ
just
with
a
you, though.
second, just a second. No, now I'm divulging the kind of a flip coin. So the flip side is there were documented atrocities at the beginning of the. It wasn't even a state. It was just a rural province colony. It was the backwaters. It's similar to the Wild Wild West in America. It's even the same period almost. Um, there were documented atrocities, but they were far and few. So I do not justify these atrocities, but you have to understand that the Arab populace attacked first.
I see that.
The events of Black Sunday in the 1920s, it was a harrowing experience for the Jewish population. Arabs were ordered, you know, just to kill and maim and brutalize. It doesn't matter if they are women or children. They are, you have free reign to do with them as you please. There is no mercy. There is no solace, no consolidation for the kafir and the kafir. Show no mercy. So those aggressions from from uh, from the Israeli overlords or whatever you want to call them, it was not unwarranted.
I understand that. Understand that the moment these so-called Jews from Europe arrived there, that the Arabs pretty much immediately, well, as soon as they got a chance, they attacked straight
Yeah,
away, and they're just
you
defending
know,
themselves. I agree with the fact that everyone
yeah.
has the right to defend themselves. I'm not disputing that. I was just trying
Mhm,
to understand exactly how the moment the Jews were
mhm.
able to take power, they immediately decided to start pretty much taking out all of their suffering upon the ones that they were occupying. That is essentially what I was getting at. They immediately, through the so called, which we, again, not all Jews are following the Talmud. We've established that. They do not all do it, but the ultra
Yeah,
Hasidic
the
ones
the
do.
Talmud or the Mishnah, but it's not strictly the Talmud. That's a big part of the Jewish learning and thought.
It is.
But yeah, Jewish studies is is very complex in many ways. It's like any. It's not similar to many religions because there are so many demands and commandments and obligations and observances that you have to uphold, and to maintain
Rules
that,
routine.
maintaining all the different working components and opposing notions. It is very kind of a stifling. That's why not a lot of people are actually observant, strict, adherent Jews in their beliefs.
You see how there are things in the Talmud that have definitely
Mhm.
influenced Jewish thought in regards to what has happened in Palestine and the communist revolution in Russia. Do you not see how that has influenced
Mhm.
a lot of the so-called communist Jews and some of the Israeli government in regards
Mhm.
to dealing with the other? You do see how that has definitely influenced,
Mhm.
the oppression. You can see that.
Yes, that exists. That has holds sway over some people
Well, but
in
yeah.
Jewry. In Jewry, um, but it's not. It's by no means. It by no means the prevailing notion or the guiding sort of a beacon of intelligence and wisdom.
Oh no, no, definitely
Um,
not. No means it's Jewish spirituality entirely based on the Taliban. No, I don't. The Torah is where it's fundamentally the Torah is the expression of the
yeah,
spirituality
the
and wisdom.
Torah. Conceptually, they are sort of the same. The different surahs and the amendments to the Quran. It exists, but it's not the same. I can assure you, it's not the same as the Talmud. The Talmud is a different beast on its own. Those are remnants that can be found in the Bible. Those concepts and notions and ideas of actual superiority over the foreigner. That's a tribal mindset set that a lot of peoples and religions and beliefs and governments actually uphold. It is a covert policy that a lot of governments implemented throughout the years, trying to eradicate or to expel the other from their midst. It's not uncommon.
I
Um,
understand that. No,
I'm
I
not
do agree
saying
with
I'm
that. I
not
agree
saying
with it.
that I'm not saying that that's what the Israeli government actually espouses
No,
and
not entirely. But it's a
tries
part
to.
influence though.
Yeah, I won't deny it. There are a lot of people who actually believe in the pseudo-scientific um, sort of beliefs that the other is unpure, the other is he is
A
not from
beast.
the tribe. He does not uphold all the different morals and ideals that we adhere to, and he cannot be integrated and assimilated into our midst. He will never be accepted as a part of us,
Yeah.
and we have to uh, expel or to rid ourselves of that
Well, look,
impurity.
with
That
that all
theory
being said,
exists.
yeah, fair
I
enough.
will concede.
With that being said, though, you mentioned that some biblical elements have tribalism too, and I will agree in regards to the Old Testament, that can be agreed. But in the New Testament,
Mhm.
I do not necessarily see any tribal elements in regards to
Okay.
some form of tyranny. I do not see that in the New Testament.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm talking about a different set of perspectives, of beliefs. Some of these beliefs they are not born. They are not born ex nihilo. They are not self-created, autonomous. They have their roots in
Yes.
history, of course.
Origin,
Of
100%.
course, historical conflicts date back, to the most ancient kind of burgeoning stages of humanity as a whole, and the Homo erectus, which we develop and we share the same pool gene.
Between Neanderthals,
So
Erectus, and yeah.
yeah, Neanderthals, our close cousins, and and this notion of tribalism is not foreign. You know, you will always find an excuse. You will try to propagate and disseminate separatism and hate within the ruling population, try to justify different acts being committed on the foreign uh, populace, uh, the minority. Um, so yeah, that's not a lot different, but yeah, the situation is pretty
It's dire.
complex and pretty
Yeah.
pretty dire. You have to have an entire community of people actually negotiating, researching, you know, to actually come to terms. It will take an entire village, or it will take so much resources. It will absorb um, so much of the time and our attention, and we have not a lot of people want to see that happening.
Well, as
Uh,
of now, I can understand that both sides are at a point where it's looking as if the Israelis who were neutral, most of them are now viciously anti-Palestinian and whatnot. And with the
mhm.
Palestinians, those who were thinking of a two-state solution, at this
Yeah,
point,
that's
most of them are viciously anti-Semitic. Like, there's
yeah,
no,
that
that's
that's a
pretty much
wrong.
where we're at now.
Yeah, that's a wrong type of way of thinking. Um,
It is the way of the world, though. As we said,
I
tribalism is the
know
way of the world.
the Palestinian populace consists of mainly, normal people.
Yeah, just like you
They
and me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like any other normal population in the world. They have the same dreams, wishes. I know, of course, I know that I know that it is such a conundrum when it comes to the Palestinian people. Nobody, nobody will have them. Nobody will take them in, give them shelter, uh, provide uh, provide them living and habitations, jobs in the workforce, will integrate and assimilate them into their societies.
Except
No,
just recently, believe it or
almost
not,
almost nobody will have that.
one
Sorry,
one one nation has actually agreed to let them in. Just recently, one nation has agreed to let them in.
which one?
Russia has openly
Russia.
volunteered with the leader in the southern region in Chechnya, Putin, to Ramzan Kadyrov, to set up
Well,
a refugee camp to host tens of
well, I
thousands of
think
Palestinian refugees.
I think that notion is off the table after the terrorist act that happened in the opera house. So that's
Yeah, but
that's problematic.
I can see now that's definitely not helping the situation, but Ramzan Kadyrov was in the process of setting up tens of thousands of camps for the Palestinians. Who knows if that's still going to
Well,
happen? Probably not, but
look, look, I don't know what to tell you. They are a vagabond sort of people right now. They have a home that is not a home. I'm just concerned. I don't care about the adult, I don't care about, um, able-bodied men who choose to take the path of the Shahid and jihad, the holy war, and to be a warrior of God. I do not carry any sympathy for these people. Um, they should be, expedited. You know, um, they should not. You have to do something about them. Um, just a second, just a second. The rest of the population, the elderly and the children and the ill, the sickly. Um, I care a lot about these people, and I don't want to see them suffer or hurt or to go through any other hardship um, throughout their lives or to suffer under starvation and famine.
it's horrible.
It is absolutely unbearable to watch and to see. I don't want that to happen to any of them.
We can all agree with that. We don't want to see kids getting killed. It sucks. It's terrible.
Um, it's very problematic. There are some Arab Israelis who identify themselves as Palestinian, and that is problematic to parse because there are people who actually migrate and they are employed in Israel and they have a permit, workers permit to work in Israel. Uh, if I encountered some Palestinians, I wouldn't have noted because racially they are not different to other, Arabs. So I couldn't have known that that individual or person is Palestinian in origin. What you're asking is, we have a free reign to bomb whatever we want with whatever artillery and whatever rate of fire uh, that we want. But when it comes to actual captives, you mean captives that were captured. To get back to your question, um, it is true that some military actions are not taken because there is a risk or a high risk that some captives, Jewish captives, will be hurt in the wake of these attacks, these operations. These attacks are entirely justified. Their entire purpose is to actually um, uh, escape, to rescue Jewish captives, Israelis. And the captives, they are not just Jewish. There are some foreign There are some foreign people as well. There are foreign workers that live in Israel. There are a lot of different people. There are even Arabs who are captured, if you don't know. Um, so that's true. You know that you don't want to get civilians or captured civilians hurt in the process of actually evacuating and rescuing. That part is true, but to indiscriminately actually attack large swaths of areas just because you can, that's not true. You're stuck on that. You're stuck on that notion. Jews, no, it's not like that. Your thinking um, is not oriented towards what I think is actually the real reality or how it looks on the surface level. Um, on the surface level, there are kind of different ripples. The core ripple is what you said. There's some, Hamas mega ultra terrorist hiding in in a bunker or a tunnel underneath the ground, and you have to understand these tunnels are very very deep. Um, they go to at least 100 meters below the surface.
That's pretty deep.
Sorry?
That is quite deep. 100 meters
Yeah.
underground. That's quite
Yes,
deep.
it is. It is. They built an entire underground kind of city underneath the surface of Gaza.
Wow.
You have that. That's the main source target. Then, then you have the surface level. You have different buildings and facilities, and you have civilians everywhere. So you have to evacuate. You have to extract as many people as you can, okay, to ensure an effective, essentially effective, successful operation with no collateral casualties. Um, you have to evacuate some regions, and I do not condone the destruction of holy sites. It doesn't matter which faith, but war, unfortunately, is a vicious mother, and these desecrations, they are very harrowing to myself. I don't know about other people, but desecrating holy sites, I do not think is a Jewish ideal, not by any stretch of the imagination. And hurting, um, or not attacking just because there are Jews, just because there are captives in those designated, targeted areas. I don't think that's true. We try to stave off. The IDF is one of the most moralistic, um, astute armies that exist in the world.
But is that
I
just a
have
bias, though? Is that just a little bit of a bias when you
not,
say
but
that?
I don't have a shadow of a doubt that any step or measurement that's taken, action, be it military surveillance, um, I believe there's
They
a
have the
purpose.
restraints. They're professional. The IDF are professional. Hamas is quite reckless. They're very brave. Hamas is brave, but they're reckless. They're chaotic. The IDF
They
is
are
quite organized.
bravely stupid, unfortunately.
They're
The
disorganized.
leadership, the leadership, they are very smart, very meticulous, very intellectual. That I will concede. I think they are some of the most educated people in the Arab population, at large, not only Gaza or Palestine or whatever you choose to call it. Um, you know, the IDF upholds the moralistic standards and rules of engagement. Um, of course, there are mishaps which are very deeply uh, mournful and very saddening, and you can't overlook that. But it's not inherently malevolent and malicious. Um, IDF is not a terrorist rogue force. No, acting on its own accord. Of course not.
But do you see how when people see viral videos of babies having their limbs blown off, people will say there's no
Mhm,
way this could be considered a moral army of any kind
mhm.
of degree?
Unfortunately, the credence, some of these footages, of course, are real. Other maybe fabricated, or the location is not disclosed properly. It's not the actual location that the event took place or that occurrence. There are a lot of problems. I'm not a social media expert or on surveillance, so I won't speak to that topic. False information and fake news that's being promulgated and disseminated and distributed, that's a big problem. Yes,
I agree.
yes, it
No,
is.
I think false.
There are some people, that the apocalypse, the eschatological times are upon us, and Jewish sources also talk about, the end times and the apocalypse, and yeah, it's
It has been
very
mentioned a lot. It's been mentioned a
it's
lot. I
very
mean, some
problematic.
people, yeah. People are saying that part of the reason for Hamas's attack, being that they are to an extent religious fanatics, was solely perpetuated that they believed the red heifer that Israel was going to. They believed they were going to bring the so-called what they perceive as the
Uh-huh.
Messiah ad-Dajjal. They were going to bring the Antichrist into the
Uh-huh.
world. So they had to defeat Israel before they do that. And they believe that. They actually believe that you guys are gonna bring the
Yeah.
Antichrist into the world. Wait, did you just agree
Hmm.
to that?
No, I didn't agree to
No,
that.
no, no,
Of course not.
He said yes, not us. But you've heard of it.
No,
You've heard
no,
of it. You've heard of it.
no. Yeah, it's a sigh of a palm to the face. That's a sigh. That's a sigh. The red heifer is a big problem. Is a big problem when it comes to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. There are those sects that actually believe that sacrificing a lamb where at the location where the temple was erected will actually bring on salvation whatever form of salvation will actually come, and that's a different thing. The red heifer is a different beast, literally, entirely. The red heifer um, has to be a perfect red cow. It cannot have any defects or birth defects or hereditary diseases. It has to be red on all sides. It has the ritual has to be performed by a descendant of the priestly class, specifically the Cohen, like the Cohens, and that's the only way a high priest could purify himself is by sacrificing the red heifer on the altar at the tabernacle in the temple. There are words, incantations, different prayers and songs that have to be played. And the red heifer will be sacrificed, burnt to a crisp. Its ashes and remains uh, will be left to the usage of the priest, and they would use it to purify themselves.
Poor
And
cow.
without that red heifer, a Messiah could not be possible, because a Messiah has to be wholly, utterly purified of any mortal or spiritual sins. So he has to go through that process of purification.
Right, but then that requires, as you just said, the
A
sacrifice
red
of the red
heifer.
heifer. Yeah.
It requires many things. It requires the temple actually existing. It requires members of and descendants of the family of the Cohens and the Levites that serve under them. It takes a lot of different factors go into it, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
If you would like to bring upon salvation, yeah.
That's an intense process. You have to pay for salvation, but some
Yeah.
people would just say that, I mean, that's obviously from the Judaic perspective. The Christian and Islamic perspective have two other methods of gaining salvation. One being,
Mhm.
Christian perspective, Alleluia, 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 Hosanna in the
Mhm.
highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, Alleluia.
Mhm.
And then from the Islamic perspective, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And then just by those two
Mhm.
methods, instant purification and salvation, just like that. Now, I don't know, obviously, if there'd be definitely, I believe in your case, or whether I never got a chance to ask you, what particular sect of Judaism are you following? Are you just a typical standard Jew? Is there any particular sect that you're looking
Um,
into? Or?
it's very convoluted. I would classify myself as a libertarian, deistic, mm, not conservative, but centered um, Jew.
Do you call out to
Something.
Hashem when you pray?
Hashem. Hashem is not the name of
Technically,
God.
it's not the actual name. Yeah, I
It's
get
not
that.
the actual God, name of God. It is a placeholder for the name, the tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God. A lot of people profess to know, or spiritualists, or occultists, or esotericists that actually claim to have the true name of God in their possession, and they could teach it to the neophyte, the initiate, that will be inducted into their halls and start his apprenticeship as an acolyte. Yeah,
You will
there
do
are
that?
weird. Sorry.
Are you in the process of doing that? Or you do not take any interest or partake in those spiritual
Um,
purification
I
activities?
considered it. I considered it in the past. There are different mainstream channels to success and actually advancing in life, and there are back channels. These are some of the back channels. Some of these, self-funded organizations and lodges and halls. I won't mention which denominations because there are a lot of them. Secretive societies. They are real. Um,
I do believe secret societies are real. I believe that they're
they are
actually the
not
basis of.
conspiracy. They are not conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, they
By the
definitely
way,
have influence over certain governments. I believe in every society, there's some kind of secret group
they
that
hold
does
they
have them.
hold sway. They hold sway on some of the political kind of decisions, some financial, um, some cultural, a lot of cultural references. There are some that are, of course, they are outright conspiracy theories, and they should not be taken into account and treated as actual evidence or documentation of this collusion or conspiracy to rid of the as you called it, the proletariat, or I called it the proletariat, or the plebs, the Romans would call them. um yeah, yeah. I forgot the original
No,
our
I was
original
basically saying like
point of
which
talking.
group. I was trying to get through which particular sect of Judaism were you following, and you explained that you're a
Oh yeah,
somewhat
yeah, yeah,
libertarian
yeah,
and you're deist and all that. So you did answer my
yeah.
question, and then we just talked about
um
secret societies for a bit. So, personal opinion, I think that the only way we could actually have any proper resolution to what is happening in regards to Israel Palestine is we need to have a third party or superpower personally intervene to just get a hold of the situation and just stop everybody from partaking in military actions involving in this devastation and conflict. I think that we need a third party to come and just say, listen, just stop fighting. Just give us a second just to see what's going on. I know that in regards to other conflicts in the world, whether it be Russia, Ukraine, or what is currently happening in many other places in Southeast Asia and Myanmar, whatnot, and West Papua and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East. I think that in regards to them, it's a bit different. But right now with Israel Palestine, I think you do need to have a big world superpower just step in and just say, both of you, stop right now, because it's getting to a point where if this blows over, I do think that it may lead to what we call Armageddon or the final battle. But that's, I mean, look, I'm hoping that some third power steps in and just stops the fighting. I know that Israel's government's got their own thing in mind at this point. I know that Hamas and the so-called puppet Palestinian government has their own thing going on, but I think a third power needs to step in and just say, both of you, just stop. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, I largely agree with what you're saying. You know, the retaliation and the circle of violence, I believe, needs to stop at some point. There has to be some sort of body that will be created governing this region. It will not be, of course, a unified, codified, institutionalized one body, but it has to consist of different factions. Um, so diplomacy is hard to engage with at current times. It's hard to actually bring the different factions to even discuss some matters to the table and to bring the different issues to light. Um, so to parlay or broker some sort of agreement is a kind of a distant notion, but we always have to keep it in our back mind that if more and more foreign sovereign countries and superpowers interfere and intercede with what's going on in the region and its inner politics and intricacies, that will eventually lead to, you know, a total all out war that all of the nations will participate in. And this is not a foreign concept. There were already two world wars that were massively destructive. You know, the bedlam that was left in its wake, you know, persisted and resonated across multiple generations and centuries. And if we want to see uh, a resolution to this conflict by the end of the half or the centennial of this century, we are going to have to find a unifying common purpose um, that drives us together into a brighter utopian Arcadian idyllic future. Uh, that takes a lot of that takes a lot of understanding and compassion, I would say.
It's very rare in this day and age, but there are still hopes. I don't think all is lost, and I see that's a very bright outlook on how we could achieve peace. I think it's a very bright outlook. I hope so, but it's rare, very rare, but it's still a possibility.
Yes, everything is a possibility. Throughout history, and upwards of 100 billion people um, were died. You know, it doesn't matter if it's in natural or unnatural deaths. Um, but but I think even though we have the animal aspect to ourselves, we have the feral base beastly our nature, you know, that only wants to sustain its basic needs like food, shelter, water, um, you know, um, even sex. Freud said that sex and death are the only things that interest humans, and that's true in a lot of ways. But that kind of dichotomous worldview and perspective is not healthy. Saying the eradication of humanity as a whole, as a race, is not a solution.
It just
I would
seems
think.
very anti, like very like not just anti-life, but it is very dark. Yeah, very dark outlook on a solution. Nuclear war,
Um,
and we just all kill ourselves.
on the other hand, you're right that it will stop or prevent any further conflict or battle or genocide in the future. No, but it won't resolve anything. The Earth will, continue to spin on its axis. Nobody will care that humans do not exist and they don't walk the Earth anymore.
Maybe the Lord
Um,
might care. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
maybe,
I mean,
maybe it will
yeah.
flood. All the animals and evolution will take place. Will
A new
be.
sentient being will become a part. A new intelligent creature will come. Who knows? I guess. I think that is why we cannot allow AI, because if it has a bias towards Jews, Christians, or Muslims, it will just make it worse with human tribalism. I'm hoping we can all shake our hands and say kumbaya. It may not happen, it may happen, but at the same time, I'd say that, this is the Abrahamic faith, and not just Abraham, but the Dharmic faith too. There's many different religions, faiths, and cultures in the world. If it's taken this long to get along, surely we can't allow for the next generation to suffer because of our bullshit mistakes. I think that we need to either have one or just finally find a way to coexist, or maybe just, again, allow for that third party to come in, stop everyone from fighting, but I cannot allow AI to come in because AI will just make it worse. I don't think AI is going to help. I feel like we just need to get a big superpower to come in. That's hopefully a good leader, and just say, "Stop fighting, everyone! Just stop killing each other, please. Just stop it." I'm hoping that happens, but
Yeah,
given,
that's a
yeah,
problem with the cycle of history. The wheel of time sort of goes on its motion, its axis, and superpowers, change. Different regimes rise, and others kind of dissipate and fall. So there's no consistency throughout, history. Different regimes and leaders, uh, run their candidacies, their presidencies, their tenure, and the sort of mantle is passed on to hopefully capable hands. But that's not always the case.
yeah. And I guess that's pretty much where it leaves us, because after all, in terms of the Jews, you've been expelled for 2,000 years, persecuted endlessly for 2,000 years because you don't have your own country.
Yeah.
Now you get a country, and now you want to keep it. So I understand it from that perspective. At the expense,
Hmm.
there's always going to be people that disagree with each other. So we'll see what
Hmm.
happens, but let's just hope that this ends sooner than later, because
Hmm.
there's nothing good that's going to come from this.
I equated, to labor. Um, it's going to get very tough, very emotional, uh, very painful at the beginning. But as time passes, that's how things go. You have to let the time pass. I believe that only the time can cure all the different old conflicts and feuds, territorial, religious, ideological, philosophical conflicts and differences will not get resolved by force. Um, I think only Father Time will dictate the future.
Time heals all wounds. I'll agree to that.
It was such a an interesting and intriguing discussion. I'm proud to be a part of this panel, and I'm proud to represent Israel as I think of myself as a representative and I think a suitable delegate for the cause and the ideals of Israel, which I believe consists of liberty, fraternity, and peace for the entirety of humanity, not just not just the Jewish uh, tribe or sect.
Glad we got this done over with. I'm glad we cleared up a lot of things, and I'm glad that even though we may agree to disagree, I'm glad that we got a lot of things learned. And
Yeah.
all the best, man.